Hey guys, tonight we step into the sandals of a Sumerian baker. Just before dawn cracks the sky like a clay plate. You'll feel grit under your nails, smell smoke clinging to linen, taste exhaustion like stale flatbread. Word of warning, this ain't your cozy artisan bakery with espresso machines and free Wi-Fi. You probably won't survive the shift without singed eyebrows or crumb-induced existential dread. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. Tell me if your ancestors ever wrestled dough in 45-0 BC moonlight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stir before first light, cool clay pressing into your palms like a stubborn memory. Night clings to the reed roof, heavy as wet wool. Your back groans, protesting the single palm fiber mattress Mesopotamians called a bed. Historians confirmed barley was breakfast, lunch, dinner here 3,000 years before sliced bread became a punchline. Grains whisper beyond the mud brick walls, shifting in reed baskets like tired secrets. You inhale dust, powdered sunlight from last harvest's frenzy. A donkey brays 2 streets over Ur's original alarm clock. Your kneading trough waits, worn smooth by generations of desperate knuckles. No caffeine here, just tepid canal water swirled in a clay mug. A gecko scuttles across the ceiling, judging your life choices. Your sandals slap against packed earth, still holding yesterday's heat like a grudge. You drag aside the date palm door screen. Night air smacks your face, sour with sewage, fish, dung-fueled progress. Storage jars tower in shadows, round-bellied guardians of your dwindling flour stash. A rat squeaks, scandalized by your intrusion. You trace a fingernail down a jar's, curve the ridge where your great-grandmother patched it with bitumen, her thumbprint fossilized in black ooze. Morning stars fade, Ishtar's diamond necklace slipping from view. You fumble for yesterday's sourdough starter, buried in damp cloth like a wheezing infant. Fermentation smells like a goat's armpit, but Sumerians worshipped this funk, kept cultures alive for decades. Archaeologists found yeast strains in temples, proof the gods preferred their bread tangy. Your water jug sweats, condensation tracing paths through caked mud. You pour slow, drowning the starter into gurgling life. Some temple scrolls claim brewers sold bakers their leftover yeast sludge. Ancient upcycling at its slimiest. Kneading begins, palms shoving, elbows locking, spine twisting like a date palm in a sandstorm. Barley flour rasps against clay rougher than the miller's gossip. Historians still argue whether bakers worked solo, or if entire families muscled dough before sunrise. Dust clouds your nostrils, flour snowing onto forearms already slick with sweat. Outside, the Euphrates mutters, sloppy drunk on melting snow from distant mountains. A bat zips past, night shift worker late for bed. Your fingertips prune, water seeping into countless floury creases. Dough bulges, puckers, sighs under your fists. You fold it over, press again, repeating motions older than pyramids or poetry. Pre-dawn silence stretches taut as a bowstring, then snaps when your neighbor's infant wails. One sandy joke time. Imagine telling this baker pizza deliveries, invented in 3 millennia. They'd cry into their unleaded bread. Light bleeds across the courtyard now, hazy, tinged with river mist green. You slump against the trough, wiping flour onto your tunic, adding another ghostly stripe to its history. Birth certificates didn't exist here. Bread was your résumé, crust your family crest. A horned viper slithers into cooler shadows, its scales hissing against stones. You freeze, respecting boundaries, both yours and death's. House cats won't invade Mesopotamia for another 1,000 years. Serpent etiquettes, strictly DIY. Embers glow in the ovens, last night's fire reduced to sleepy orange winks. You toss tamarisk twigs into the gloom, sparks jet upward, furious fireflies. Heat blushes your cheeks, preheating like a drunkard's apology. Grains keep whispering, taunting from their baskets. Each loaf consumes hours of stooping grinding, sweating like edible time capsules of misery. But someone's gotta feed her, and destiny chose you with cruel precision. Dawn arrives proper now, the sun peeking over rooftops like a nosy neighbor. Already, hooves clatter on the packed earth street, a donkey cart laden with fresh reeds. You stretch back, popping like a whip, and grease the first loaf with trembling hands. Historians found invoices for sesame oil in royal archives, luxury grease for temple bread only. Your stomach growls, the baker's curse, surrounded by food you can't afford to eat. Profit margins were tighter than a priestess's braids. Half your bread goes to rent, the rest to whoever waves copper or favors. A shadow darkens the doorway, silk draped and perfume scented. Priestess of Nana, demanding tribute, loaves before her god's morning coffee. You bow, flour snowing from your hair, and offer the least charred specimen. She sniffs, rolls her lapis-lazuli eyes, vanishes in a cloud of sanctified entitlement. First, customers shuffle up now, fishermen smelling of carp, potters trailing red clay dust. Coins clink, cloth rustles, eyes narrow in the haggling dance. You trade a loaf for river mussels, another for a patched water jug. Silver would be nicer, but breakfast isn't picky. Sun climbs higher, your shadow crouches beneath you, a tired stain on sun-baked earth. Heat wavers above the oven, a visible sigh. By noon, you'll miss this coolness, long for it like a lost lover. But for now, the world's hushed, suspended between dark and light. Even the river's murmur softens, holding its breath. You lean against the warm clay wall, close burning. Eyes steal 3 breaths of stillness. The dough rises slow, like hope in a debtor's prison. Cracked fingers find dry tamarisk branches, the desert's favorite kindling. Dawn's first blush reveals their silver bark, stripped by last week's sandstorm. You snap brittle twigs, releasing a sharp, peppery scent. Tamarisk wood burns hotter than date palm, common knowledge among Euphrates bakers. Historians still argue whether our ancestors chose tamarisk for its heat, or because devils supposedly hated smoke. A chuckle escapes you. Fairies and demons make poor tinder. Kneeling before the oven's black mouth, you nurse last night's ember under shredded bark. Breath becomes ritual for slow puffs, like coaxing a shy god awake. Did you know Persian priests once baked bread on funeral pyres, claimed it helped souls climb their sacred smoke? Your fire hisses, decidedly not dead royalty. Flame licks upward, a tiny sun claiming its clay throne. You feed it thicker branches now, listening for the happy cracks between pops. Ovens this old crave tamarisk's song, the brittle percussion of proper heat. Build it too fast, and the ember chokes on ambition. A stray spark leaps onto your wrist, earning a hissed curse. Maybe the old rituals had merit, bribing flame spirits with juniper resin. Smoke twines around your neck, an ashy serpent smelling of burnt honey. It slithers toward the roof vent, joining 100 other morning prayers. Across mud brick rooftops, similar plumes rise like reverse waterfalls. The city breathes smoke at dawn before the sun drinks the haze away. You count rooftops still dark, lazy rivals gambling with hungry customers. Heat paints your cheeks as the oven gulps branches. An hour's work vanishes in minutes. Ever tried baking under Gilgamesh's cursed eclipse? The scribes never mention how ovens sulked for days after. This one's roaring now, a dragon fed after weeks trapped in its cave. Your linen head wrap clings to damp temples. The fire's enthusiasm borders on rude. A half-charred branch crumbles in your grip, powder blackening your nails. Some bakers mix donkey dung with tamarisk, stretching their fuel further. You'll pay extra for pure wood, even if gold-hungry merchants mock your pride. Each blackened fingerprint tells the same tale, loyalty to the flame. Smoke shifts direction, blowing back into your squinting eyes. You shuffle sideways, muttering about rebellious winds. Nearly spat into the flames. An old superstition says that summons fire demons. Probably just drafty bricks, but why court disaster before breakfast? The oven's throat glows orange now, a forge fit for a king's blade. You lay fresh branches crosswise, like stacking bones for a proper pyre. Feed it steadily, let its hunger pace your labor. Shadows shrink from the flames, scuttling across the courtyard like scared beetles. Palm fronds rustle overhead, mimicking bread loaves swelling in the heat. Your lower back protests. This marriage of crouch and feed strains mortal joints. Heat thickens the air. Your sweat beads evaporate before reaching your jawline. Salt crusts at your hairline, a gritty crown for the dawn's furnace tender. The tamarisk pile dwindles to finger-width sticks. You'll need more after shaping the dough. Smoke thins to a wisp, the oven's hunger temporarily sated. You stand knees popping like overbaked flatbread. Blinking away heat-tripled vision, you spy the barley dough waiting under damp cloth. The ember purrs beneath its ash blanket, ready to transform mush into miracles. Your shadow stretches long across the courtyard, thin as reed paper. Smile at the flame's obedience for now. Tomorrow's kindling waits unchopped by the gate. But that's a problem for future you. For this breath, the oven sighs in contentment, and you let sweat dry on your skin. Fingers sink into the mound of barley flour, rough grains snagging your calluses. Dawn's heat already rises from the courtyard bricks, warming the ceramic mixing bowl beneath. You scoop water from the canal jug, its surface swirling with sleepy silt. Modern brewers would kill for your wild yeast, drifting in from last week's beer vats. Historians still argue whether Sumerians used sourdough starters on purpose or just liked the dough drunk. The flour drinks the water greedily, a beige swamp spreading across the bowl. Clumps form under your palms, cool mush squeezing through your fingers. Barley fights you. It'll never rise like wheat from upriver. Your great-grandmother called it honest grain. Makes you work for every soft crumb. Some bakers cheat, sneaking honey into the mix for faster bubbles. You spit toward the oven instead. Tradition demands sacrifice. Kneading becomes rhythm, push, fold, turn. Heel of your hand, pressing rebellion from the dough. A scar on your thumb tingles. That time, you needed crushed river pearls for a temple feast. Yet, another reason to hate rich patrons. Their teeth found every hidden shard. Dust puffs up with each thrust, ghostly flour clouds smelling of dry rain. Bakers along the Euphrates all know this scent, lungs coated in golden haze. One quirky tablet claims Pharaoh's magicians hid spells in bread clouds, dubious but fun. Your neighbor swears his grandfather inhaled a love charm, married 3 women in a month. Sweat drips off your nose, vanishing into the dough's topography. Salt follows, crushed from the trading post's dubious blue crystals. You count 11 palm rotations per fistful. Too much numbs the tongue, too little invites mold demons. Every village whispers different ratios. The oldest lies carved on oven bricks. The dough thickens, blisters rising like miniature dunes. Tiny bubbles sigh beneath the surface, yeast whispering gossip from the beer quarter. You drag the mass sideways, stretching its pale skin thin as offering cloth. Light shines through the elastic membrane, your private divination. See how the bubbles cluster near the edge. Means rain before noon, or your thumb slipped measuring yeast. A fly lands on the rim, wings powdered with your flour. You flick it toward the oven, instant judgment for carbohydrate thieves. Heat shimmers distort the courtyard wall, making shadows dance like drunken scribes. Remember that festival where bread sculptors made life-size chariots, melted into glue by noon guards slipped chasing runaway crust wheels. You tear off a fist-sized lump, testing its spring. The dough sighs back into shape, a compliant child after tantrums, not like that cursed batch last flood season soggy flour made bricks better than bread. Priests still complain about those hollow temple loaves. Gods dislike being cheated. Damp linen shrouds the dough protection from the sun's prying eyes. Rest makes it pliant, though historians quibble whether rising times exceeded 1 watch. Lean against the bowl's curve, its chill seeping through your tunic. 23 breaths till the next fold. Palm fronds sketch lazy patterns overhead, nature's own baker's ledger. Flour dust, motes swirl in a sunbeam, your personal desert storm. You close stinging eyes, the memory of last week's sandstorm still sharp, not like gentle flour. This dust bites cheeks raw as lion kisses. Your stomach growls loud enough to startle a lizard off the wall. Breakfast is stolen crusts if the bread sells well. The dough mocks your hunger, swelling like a smug merchant's purse. Knead again, 10 rotations west, 10 east. Songs hum in your throat, the same ones your wet nurse sang over dough. Archaeologists found ovens with lullaby lyrics etched inside, proof that baking's always been half magic. A breeze sneaks into the courtyard, tugging at the dough's linen blanket. You weight it down with a river stone smooth as a sleeping child's cheek. Heat expands the dough, pressing against its cloth sky. Soon it'll meet the oven's scorching embrace. Yeasty fumes rise, sharp and alive, as a newborn's cry. This smell haunts every Sumerian dream, the scent of mornings older than kings. Historians write scrolls about palace intrigues, myths that civilization rose on this humble stink. Fingernails scrape dough from your wrist hairs, each strand stiff with drying paste. You'll find flour behind your ears at sunset, ghostly proof of dawn's labor. The bowl sits ready, dough swelling like the goddess Ninhursag's pregnant belly. Shouts echo from the canal, fishermen arguing over nets. Your hands keep working, the rhythm immune to human pettiness. Bread requires all of you, no room for outside noise. A dropped fig seed glistens near your foot, kick it toward the chicken coop. Even pests deserve breakfast, just not yours. The dough bulges, straining against its linen bonds. Time to divide and conquer. Torn sections thud onto the board, dough balls lined up like soldier recruits. Shape them fast before the yeast grows lazy. Flatten each lump, folding edges under to trap the bubbles. Calloused fingertips smooth, seams only eyes can see. Dust the board with reserve flour, the good stuff kept dry in a reed jar. Never waste, not when harvests falter like a dying man's breath. Rolling the first sphere, it sticks lovelessly to your palm. Barley's final revenge for last season's cracked harvest songs. Each palm-cupped round, dented by your thumbprint, an edible seal of ownership. Line them along the boards, edge puffy recruits awaiting fire baptism. One collapses sideways, offense punishable by reshaped dough. Your laughter surprises a perched sparrow. It flees trailing flour motes like tiny stars. Clay seals await your potter cousin's crooked masterpieces. Press a scarab shape into the first loaf, insurance against oven caprices. Everyone knows stamped bread bakes evenly, or maybe just looks holy. The dough sighs, expanding its borders like a restless empire. You cover the ranks with another damp cloth, final rest before the flames. Always say a prayer here. Bricks remember doubt. Dust your hands on your tunic, leaving comet trails of white. Sink into the grinding stone's shadow, letting dough and yeast negotiate privately. This truce takes precisely 2 songs about Gilgamesh's failed baking experiments. Your back protests, straightening, the baker's permanent stoop, echoing ancient texts. Tablet carvers depicted hunched bread makers as far back as Ur's founding. No one mentions their spines screamed louder than temple hymns. A dove lands near the dough, head cocked in flowery evaluation. You wave a flour-dusted rag. Today's battles demand vigilance. How long has it been? Shadows suggest mid-morning. Time bends differently before an oven's wrath. Peek under the cloth. Dough sighs upward, trapped bubbles pleading for release. Good enough. Fire cares little for perfectionists. Clay tags click as you gather them, each carved with blessings for fools. Impress the first seal, a spiral meant to trap heat demons. Your thumbprint overlaps the design, humanity marring divine geometry. Kneel by the oven, its gaping mouth, exhaling tamarisk perfume. The first loaf clings to the board, its doughy heart hammering imaginary drums. Inhale, the air shimmers with anticipation. This marriage of hand and fire never loses its terror. Palm-sized rounds dent under your thumb, a ritual older than writing. Clay seals their edges, promising crackling crusts. Each loaf becomes a world under your hands, flattened discs swelling with trapped breath. Historians still argue whether bread stamps prevented theft or just pleased oven spirits. Your cousin, the potter, carved these clay seals, wonky scarabs with crossed eyes. Press the first stamp into yielding dough, the spiral design swallowing your thumbprint. Some bakers whisper stamped loaves bake faster, magic baked right into the crust. One Uruk tablet claims bread seals warded off grain demons. Alternative uses for royal cylinder seals, perhaps. The dough resists shaping, springing back like a disgruntled cat. You fold the edges under creating tension for that perfect rise. 10 rotations per loaf, no more, no less. Barley demands symmetry like a jealous lover. Line them along the fire-scorched board, soldiers awaiting deployment. One rebellious round collapses sideways, dough oozing over the edge. You rescue it with a flour-dusted curse, gentle as a mother's scolding. Clay tags click in your palm, cool against oven-warmed skin. Each seal bears different luck. Spirals for heat, crosses for even browning, scorpions for dramatic flair. Academics adore these imprints. Studying bakers marks more than king lists sometimes. A curious wasp hovers near the dough, drawn by yeast's boozy perfume. You wave a reed fan, playing envoy between insect and breakfast. Remember that festival where a honey-drunk hornet ruined the high priest's loaf. best divine wrath you've ever witnessed. Dust the board with reserved flour, gritty insurance against sticking. Your thumb finds the next loaf center, pressing a well for steam to gather. Some village women add crushed dates here, sweetness hidden like buried treasure. Not today. Hunger prefers honesty over surprises. Shadows shorten across the courtyard morning, accelerating towards furnace heat. You cover the ranks with damp linen, their final rest before Inferno. One quirky scroll claims dough rises faster if sung love ballads. Your cracked humming tests the theory. Sumerian account tablets list bread shapes by class, round for workers, pointed for temples. You mimic the temple style, folding corners into crude triangles. Palace bakers might sneer, but gods accept earnest geometry. A chick pecks near your foot, daring to steal flour. You flick a crumb its way, bribery over violence. The mother hen clucks approval from the coop, feathered magistrate of your courtyard. Dough bubbles swell beneath linen, yeast performing its final act. Blisters gather at the seams like pearl divers at dawn. You lift a corner, inhaling sour sweetness, sharper than unripe figs. Clay seals ready your hands, hovering like river hawks. Press, release, press again. The ritual feels ancient as irrigation ditches. Modern dig sites find these charred stamps by the thousands, silent testimonials to daily hunger. The first loaf clings to the board, courage faltering at the oven's edge. Steam will explode its seams, heat tattooing the seal's pattern onto crust. You whisper promises. Soon you'll be golden. Soon you'll feed children. A bead of sweat rolls off your chin, vanishing into dough's topography. Salt stings the corner of your mouth, flour paste drying your lips shut. You spit toward the canal rough baptism for the task ahead. Shouts drift from the date sellers, stall, price, haggling over shriveled fruit. Your focus stays tactile, palm against dough, clay against heat. Bread forgives no distraction, especially barley with its grudges. Dust motes swirl in sudden breeze, miniature sandstorm over the board. You shield the loaves with your body, human bulwark against nature's mischief. When excavations found bakeries buried under wind-blown silt, they still held stamped loaves in ovens, last seal applied, a scorpion tail curving into dough's flesh. The design recalls mercenaries who paid in bread last summer, their tattoos marching like ants across scarred backs. Linen lifted, dough rounds plump as sleeping infants. You count them twice, 12 soldiers against the day's hunger, short by 3 compared to yesterday's batch. Blame the humidity's lazy yeast. Knees protest as you rise, grinding stone imprinting your calves. Oven heat hits your face like a drunkard's breath, fierce and familiar. First loaf poised on the peel, its dough quivering under scrutiny. Clay seals glow faintly in furnace light, their grooves trapping shadows. Slide it onto the scorched bricks. The hiss reminds you of serpents fleeing fire. Retreat quickly, pride burns faster than flour. Shouts erupt down the lane, donkeys braying at a stuck cart. Your hands stay steady, loading the next loaf with ritual precision. Bread knows nothing of street dramas, only heat and time. One seal smudges during transfer, the scorpion's claws melting into oblivion. No matter, hungry mouths care only for the crunch underfoot, that sacred sound of enough. The oven swallows 6 loaves, its belly crammed like a festival crowd. You pause, wiping steam-slick hair from your eyes. Historians debate whether bakers worshipped oven deities, but anyone feeding flames daily knows the answer. Heat paints your cheeks crimson, earthy makeup for flour-covered performers. Another loaf slides home, joining its brothers in the shimmering dark. Crust already blisters, tiny volcanoes erupting across the surface. A child's wail pierces the courtyard, some mishap with a stolen fig. You glance, but keep loading, parental instincts suppressed by oven demands. Bread waits for no scraped knee, no tantrum, no heartbreak. Final loaf deposited, the peel withdrawn like a sacred sword. Close the oven's mouth with a clay slab, sealing fate with a thud. Now the vigil begins, watching shadows shorten as loaves transform. Through a crack, you spy dough, expanding, pressing against hot bricks. Trapped steam seeks escape through your careful seams. One seal holds, another cracks, the scorpion's tail, now a ragged canyon. Flour dust settles on your arms, pale constellations on sweat-sheened skin. You lean against the cooling grinding stone, letting oven roars soak into your bones. Across the alley, the potter's daughter stacks her father's wares. Her eyes meet yours, quick conspirators grin exchanged. She'll want a hot loaf for mending your mixing bowl last week. Smoke twists skyward, scent carried toward the ziggurat's peak. Let priests inhale that humble offering. Your true temple stands knee-high and brick-lined. A bubble bursts inside the oven, loud as a finger snap. You imagine crusts crisping, scent sharpening, that perfect moment before triumph or tragedy. Your stomach growls again, feral echo of the oven's rumble. 5 more breaths, then you'll peek, just one quick glance. The oven's roar drowns canal noises, a beast demanding tribute. You grab scattered pebbles, smooth thieves pilfered from the riverbank last flood season. Toss one into the darkness, listen for truth. A sharp hiss answers, like vipers startled in their nest. Heat vaporizes river moisture, trapped inside the stone. Your cheeks flush, ovens breathe, confirming readiness. Sumerian ovens often reached 800 degrees, temperatures modern bread nerds recreate with digital sensors. Another pebble follows, tiny meteor entering the atmosphere. This one shrieks higher, betraying hotter zones near the back bricks. You map the oven's uneven heart like a smuggler knows border paths. 3 decades ago, diggers found scorched gaming, stones inside a baker's kiln, playful testing, or forgotten bets. Sweat slithers down your spine, wicked sibling to hissing pebbles. Historians still argue whether bakers calibrated heat by sound or just enjoyed the percussion. You favor rhythm over reason, tossing the last stone left-handed for luck. It sings middle C, a tuneful lie. Kneeling scrapes old burns on your shins, pink badges of oven loyalty. Heat mats your eyelashes together, blinking feels like pulling clay tablets apart. One scroll claims scorched pebbles could predict harvests if thrown onto full moon puddles, worth the laughter from barley brokers tomorrow. Gravel crunches behind you, donkey hooves retreating from the heat. Your shadow stretches across bricks, war-warped silhouette of a flour-dusted general, palm flat against the oven wall. Clay pulses like a sleeping giant's ribs. Through the flicker, you spy dough, balloons blistering black at the seams. Steam escapes a ruptured spiral seal, ghostly whisper of ruined bread taxes. 3 loaves sacrificed to the heat god's mood, acceptable losses for opening parley. Wood smoke blends with baking crust, incense for the daily miracle. Even temple incense sellers pause near your alley, sniffing like jackals at a funeral feast. You cough, ash coating your tongue with charred remorse. A crack echoes inside, dough explosion or collapsing brick. Heart gallops, hand darting toward the ash scoop as emergency shovel. False alarm, just a clay seal surrendering its design to the heat. Your knuckles brush the oven mouth. Pain blooms like a lotus flower. Jerk back foolishness costing a skin layer. Suck the sting's salt and grit mingling with blood's iron tang. Veteran bakers show puckered hand maps, each scar naming a boast. Shadows shift, sun climbing above mud brick rooftops. Oven light pales, merging with dawn's glare. Inside the belly, cracking noises, slow like cooling temple gongs. Crust's harden defensive walls against crumbling middles. Bread's architecture defies time. Loaves pulled from Babylonian ruins still show bite marks. Wind sneaks under your tunic, assassin cool against sweat-slicked thighs. You wedge a brick shard into the oven's mouth, maintaining draft precision. Airflow mastery separates bread from cinders, though grain demons steal credit sometimes. Honey-colored light bathes the courtyard, first real warmth, not born of flame. Glance toward ziggurat shadows. Priests should be chanting now. Their drone blends with oven's bass rumble, flat notes of holy impatience. Footsteps approach slow, shuffling through dust. Potter's widow lingers near, pretending to adjust her headscarf's fold. Her eyes beg first loaf charity. You count remaining coins. Nod toward the cooling stones, not looking at her threadbare sandals. Smell shifts, raw yeast surrendering to caramelized crust. Time's teeth gnaw your resolve, 5 more breaths before retrieval. Wait too long, loaves become weaponized biscotti. Rush and gut aches follow buyers home like stray dogs. Sunlight hits the peel's edge, blinding flash off polished wood. Squint slide the tool into shimmering darkness. First loaf clings, playing dead. Quick jerk, it surrenders onto the waiting bricks. Crust crackles, glorious thunder interrupting morning's quiet. Steam swirls, carrying scents. Even beer hauls envy. the baker's true prayer, that crisp exhale of success. Your stomach howls agreement, matching the oven's dying growls. Breakfast can wait. People shuffle into the alley already. Coin pouches jingle worse music than pebble hisses. You turn facing the flames again. Still 12 soldiers left to rescue. Metal hisses against stone, peel, dragged back into position. Next loaf hesitates, teasing the tool's edge like a cliff diver. Breathe shallow scent of scorched, barley thick as cemetery incense. Steady, quick flick, misery avoided. A breeze steals smoke, dumping it onto silk merchants' hanging wares. His curses warm your back better than dawn's sunlight. Second loaf lands, its spiral seal blackened into victory scars. Children gather, hovering beyond heat's reach. Their stares prick your neck, hungrier than oven flames. Hold discipline, loaves must cool or crumble. Let them memorize steam patterns, appetite's cruel geography lesson. Third loaf sticks, peel meeting stubborn resistance. Knock the handle, wood vibrating like a plucked harp string. It budges, reluctant as a debtor at tax time. Crusted bottom tears, gaping wound, revealing pale innards. Frown offerings must be flawless for priestess coin. Toss the wounded soldier onto your scrap cloth, sour down casualty rations. Your teeth will test its worth tonight, after market hour cheats. Fourth loaf emerges pristine, triumphant as a harvest moon. Hold it high, letting buyers admire the lattice blisters. Murmurs ripple through early crowd, calculating wives, rechecking coin purses. Oven heat fades, replaced by human press body warmth. Sixth loaf cools beside first, a platoon at ease. Scoop pebbles from the oven floor, toss them into cooling water. Their sizzle drowns haggling voices, last echo of morning's battle. Hand tremors begin, unclenching after peel's death grip. Wipe soot onto linen, wrap, gray streaks for later scrubbing. Turn, face the crowd fully, baker transformed into merchant. First customer steps forward, fish stink, announcing river folk. His copper glints, new minted, and sharp as betrayal. Hold up 4 fingers, price etched in smoke lines on the wall. He scowls, touching his gut, where last week's loaf hardened. The pebble basin steams, final wisps of heat confessing secrets. You inhale, charred crust promising survival. Sold or silenced, bread always speaks. Flames lick upward, welcoming first dough soldiers into formation. You slide loaves off the peel, their pale bellies kissing glowing stones. Steam erupts, silent screams that fog your vision. Even veteran bakers flinch. That first blast feels like dragon's breath. Barley dough blisters instantly, tiny bubbles becoming amber oceans. Each pop echoes miniature thunder in the oven's vaulted ceiling. Your ears ring, heat conducting, sound strain and metallic. Historians still argue whether home hearths matched professional bakeries, but your blistered knuckles have opinions. A spiral-sealed loaf splits wide, laughing at your careful fold work. Fisher leaks dough tears, sizzling against ember beds. 5 others hold strong, domes rising like miniature ziggurats. 3 decades ago, diggers found bread molds near temple kitchens, identical to your worst failures. You crouch, eye level with the oven mouth, shadows twist inside, flames painting hieroglyphs on ceiling bricks. One loaf rotates slowly, spun by some steam jet below. Never seen that before, dough practicing afterlife pirouettes. Retching sound startles you. A loaf's side erupts black bile. Burnt grain smell floods the alley, warning beacon for cheapskate buyers. Scorch patterns might mean something. Some scrolls claim blisters predicted flood seasons. Right now, yours scream lower the damn temperature. Shuffle backward, heat crisping your eyebrows into prickly arches. Canal wind sweeps in flattening flames into golden carpets. For 3 breaths, the oven purrs like a contented leopard. Then logs shift, fire rears up snarling again. Rod-shaped loaf rolls sideways, defecting toward the ember pit. Rescue attempt requires peel agility and dignity sacrifice. You lunge, tunic hem catching fire with a kissing sound. Slap the linen flames, still hooking the fleeing bread roll. Victory loaf cools beside your knee, wearing new charcoal tattoos. Fish vendor chuckles from his stall scales, glittering with schadenfreude. Flip him a crust scrap. Watch seagulls dive bomb his wares. Divert and conquer. Inside the oven, surviving loaves brown unevenly, shy patches beside burn scars. Clay floor tiles radiate ancestral knowledge. Sumerian ovens baked 18 bread types at once. Your 3 varieties feel ambitious enough today. Knees pop when standing, reminder you're not 18 flood seasons anymore. Press aching palms against mud brick wall, cool relief fading fast. Across the street, dye workers dunk linens into indigo vats. Your life, same blue-collar ballet with hotter liquids. Oven snores now, consumption slowed to rhythmic chewing. Steam thins, ghosts retreating to underworld shadows. Lighter scent emerges, nutty perfume beneath the smoke camouflage. Now, the true test begins, crust versus crumb. Hook first candidate, slide peel beneath soldier 7. Lift slow, threat of structural collapse high. Halfway out, bottom crust detonates like shrapnel. Duck blackened shard embeds in date palm trunk. 3 streets over a dog yelps. Coincidence, probably. Second loaf emerges intact, golden hull, pocked by volcanic vents. Tap the underside, deep hollow thump like a healthy heart. Children mimic the sound, slapping their muddy thighs in approval. Cloud swallows the sun, momentary mercy on your sweat-salted neck. Use the dimness to inspect blister patterns, starbursts versus spiderwebs. Some mad priests read constellations in dough, saw droughts in split seams. You just see lunch. 5th loaf sticks, peel edge sawing through semolina skin. Jerk hard bread somersaults onto ash piles. Cursing feels too hot, you kick oven instead. Toe regrets everything through worn reed sandals. Widow loiters again, her shadow stretching thin as her excuses. Break the ruined loaf in half, scrape off ash like forgiving sins. Toss her portion, she catches it midair like a temple acrobat. Remaining loaves, summit, perfectly crowned by blackened ridges. Their heat hugs your chest as you line them up, stone cooling battalion. Shadows beneath each loaf waver, puddled darkness, pretending to burn. Fish vendor returns, tossing a silver-scaled carp at your feet. Barter math unfolds fast. 1 carp equals 6 loaves minus gull pecks. Nod, he grabs bread without waiting. His hurry reeks of unpaid debts. Priestess's servant arrives, sniffing at loaves like a jackal. Flick temple token onto your counter. Bronze token clatters with disdain. 40 loaves by noon, no ugly ones. May the gods rot her yeast. Bricks tick behind you, oven contracting in post-feast bliss. Palm the last test pebble, still warm from morning's throw. Squeeze, river smooth reassurance. 6 flood seasons, you've stolen pebbles. None have betrayed you yet. Dough scraps bubble in the ferment jar. Tomorrow's army swelling ranks. Sun climbs higher, pressing down. With impatient thumbs, buyers cluster closer, jostling for first pick of battle-scarred veterans. Hooves crack against cobbles. Donkeys swerve past your cooling loaves. Reed baskets sway, overflowing with squid and wilted leeks. A wheel bumps your stool, spilling dates into the gutter. Buyers swarm closer, their linen pouches chinking like nervous crickets. Elderly woman prods a loaf. Her thumb leaves a gilt crater. Too firm for my nephew's gums, she clucks. You point to yesterday's discards, harder than Pharaoh's heart. She huffs off, ankle bells jingling defeat. 3 merchants arrive, reeking of camel and cinnamon bark. Their ledgers flap, clay tablets strung on hemp twine. One traces cuneiform numbers in the air, calculating resale profits before tasting. Historians still argue whether market taxes funded ziggurat repairs. Your coins currently fund this oven. A donkey brays, dropping mint, sprigs from its muzzle. Its handler curses, digging greenery from between yellow teeth. Donkeys carried Uruk's trade, 600,000 tons, yearly across dusty trails. Right now, this one carries pure mischief behind twitching ears. Copper coins land on your counter, warm as fresh dung. You count 17 short by 3 for a full loaf. Client shrugs. Tigress fishermen pay in scales next week. Slide the bread back. His smirk evaporates like morning dew. Cool wind sweeps canal, stink your way dead fish and algae bloom. Perfect pairing for barley crust. Cover the loaves, linen cloth billows like a ghost bride. Underneath, secret heat still hums against your palms. Silver clinks special priestesses, servant returns with temple workers. 40 loaves vanish into gilded reed boxes, no coins exchanged. Temple accounts forgive debts, another divine loophole. One worker pockets crumbs, his calloused fingers trembling fast. Girl tugs your tunic, offering river snails in a clay cup. Her eyes gleam, hoping for a crust trade. Snail slime trails glisten, questionable protein source. Shake your head, She swallows one live to spite you. Across the canal, dye vats bubble purple as bruised fruit. Workers' hands match the liquid, indigo stains etching their fates. Your own scars blend better. Pink burns camouflaged by sun-darkened skin. Fisherman returns, emptying his net of tiny silver minnows. For the rejected loaves, he barks. 5 charred soldiers enlist in his bucket, swimming toward soup pots. Minnows scatter, doomed to flavor beer broth tonight. Tax collectors, shadow looms, abacus beads clicking like scorpion tails. 4 loaves for palace tribute, he announces. Jaw clenches, your fingers crush a date pit. Ancient ledgers show bakers paid 6%. Your rate feels closer to 60. Breaking a loaf, you offer half as sampler. He gnaws slowly, eyeing the remaining stock like vulture bait. Handkerchief blooms, swallowing your bread mid-cough. No receipt given, just sandal prints in spilled flour. Rubble shifts behind oven. Rat's tail vanishes into mud brick. Last week, it stole a fig cake, waddle ran like a drunk scribe. Tonight's trap involves fish oil and bent copper, revenge served oily. Midwife jostles through crowd, her hemp bag dripping saffron water. Blood crusts her hem, a dawn battle fought quietly. She grabs 2 loaves, tucks them beside squawking hen. Coins follow, stained with juniper incense. Air thickens, donkey sweat blends with baking sourdough tang. Pigeons swoop for fallen grain, wing slaps echoing off walls. You swat one, feathers tickle your wrist like mocking kisses. Regal woman approaches, lapis-lazuli necklace catching weak sun. Her robe's hem whispers against stones, expensive linen breeze. Request comes soft, 5 loaves without crust for my songbird. Over your shoulder, caged finch chirps in her slave's grip. Crumbless bread requires scraping, wasting good charred armor. Lapis woman frowns at knife sounds, covering her bird's ears. Silver coin compensates, enough to buy honey tomorrow. Maybe. Carpenter drops faulty stool, trade for bread. Pine legs wobble, peg joints gaping like hungry mouths. Nod anyway, stool becomes problem for future you. He grabs 2 loaves, vanishes into churning crowd. Donkey handler returns, mint breath, now beer soured, offers rides to next village, discount for baker friends. Only 2 broken ribs last trip, he grins. Decline, your world ends at this oven's hearth. Sun climbs, crusts crisp into golden brown armor. Butter seller elbows forward, her churn slung like a baby. Thumb-sized dollop costs 1 fig, daylight robbery. Trade happens quick, she licks fingers clean after. Tile maker inspects your oven bricks, tutting at hairline cracks. Full rebuild by flood season, he warns, promises clay delivery, next week or never. Shrug, you've survived 6 last season warnings. Laughter erupts, children chase a runaway copper bowl. It rolls toward canal, plink promising hungry afternoon. Mothers keep haggling, eyes tracking the bowl's death spiral. You lob a crust, distraction saves the dish. Wind shifts, smoke from downstream potters' kilns stings nostrils. Glaze fumes mingle with your baking bread toxic perfume. Cover face with damp rag, breathing through linen soup. Priest's wife demands blessings, presses date paste into your palm. Sticky symbols drawn on counter, protection sigils for bread. Wipe them fast. Date goo attracts every fly in Sumer. Stray dog noses your ankle, old burn scar livid on its flank. Toss burnt crust, it crunches like charcoal candy. Pup stays, new shadow with wagging ash-tipped tail. Coin pouch weighs heavier, yet lighter than dawn's hopes. Prices rise weekly, millet costs 7 shells now. Across the river grain silos bulge like noblemen's bellies. Your stomach growls, ignoring profit math for now. Glassblower staggers by, arms full of cloudy vessels. Jade green cup offered, still warm from the furnace. Fill it with water. He gulps like man 3 deserts. 2 loaves disappear into his soot-stained satchel. Loaves dwindle, 20 soldiers become 15, become 9. Faces blur, hands snatch bread, drop coins, vanish. Midday heat warps the air, bakes your thoughts slow. Last buyer lingers, young scholar clutching cuneiform tablet. Orders bread for extensive digestion observations. Eyes roll, still wrap his loaf, extra tight. Curiosity feeds minds, barley feeds the rest. Empty reed baskets stack crooked, smelling of crust and regret. Ash-covered stool creaks, welcoming your weight like an old friend. Dog whines, tugs at a fallen linen rag. Half-eaten crust peeks beneath, puppy treasure discovered. Let it win, tongue lashing charred prize proudly. Fish vendors laugh, booms downstream, sounds like profit found. Your coins jingle, thin comfort against the oven's cooling sigh. Canal breeze carries reed flute songs, someone's lazy afternoon anthem. You hum along, fingers drumming flour-dusted knees. Footsteps approach, slow, shuffling, barefoot. Widow returns, hands folded in empty silence. Break last burnt loaf, share your defeat. She eats slowly, licking charcoal from cracked lips. Stray dog noses her palm, hoping for peasant alliance. She shoves it, mutters curses lost to winds. History won't recall this, yet it repeats daily. Cool stone helps you rise, joints popping farewell salutes. Coins dig into hip flesh, copper promising nothing. Oven tick-tick-ticks, counting down to evening's resurrection. Palm a warm pebble, transfer heat to your tired eyes. 3 breaths, hold the fading fire inside. Market noises dim, donkeys braying toward sunset pastures. Your alley sleeps, except tomorrow's dough already whispering. 1 loaf remains, dog sits sentry beside its throne. Flour sack gathers spillage, precious dust, returned to the fold. Waste not, hunger's ancient enemy scowls close. Tributary canal ripples, moon-pale fish glint below. Nets return empty tonight, stomachs tighten citywide. Your oven dreams of dough, never of empty rivers. Kick the ash pile, dust ghosts rise dancing. Dog sneezes twice, its protest registered. Clay water jug sweats, tiny beads racing toward earth. Catch 3 drops on your tongue, tease before deep gulps. Distant ziggurat, gong trembles, the air even gods need schedules. Workers trudge home, shoulders lower than morning's hopes. Your fingers find the leftover scrap, hidden beneath cooling stones. Chewy rebellion ate without sharing. Moon peaks crescent blade cutting through indigo sky. Count 3 stars, already brighter than your coins. Breeze lifts flour from the counter, pale ghosts, fleeing hungry earth. Dog licks the stain, eternal cleanup crew hired. Footsteps again, someone running, sandals slapping wet stones. Breathless boy shoves papyrus scrap, priestess's seal gleaming. You hesitate, sting still fresh from dawn's tribute. Wax seal cracks, orders for 30 more by dusk. Moonlight catches the boy's smile, he knows your answer. Coins clench tighter, tomorrow's flour secured by tonight's sweat. Oven yawns cold, embers winked out hours ago. Rub your chest, echo heat lingers in bones. Boy waits, foot tapping against stubborn cobbles. Nod, his sprint kicks pigeons into panicked flight. Roof tiles creak, rat's victory dance begins early. Toss a date pit, silence follows. Knead tomorrow's starter, wrinkled hands move without command. Dog snores, dream paws twitching. Across the river, bonfires bloom like desert flowers. You work, a shadow among cinnamon embers. Tired fingers fold dough, seam facing east for sunrise luck. 60 loaves by dawn wheat rebellion begins anew. The first loaf emerges, charred at the edges, yet golden underneath. Heat slaps your cheeks, a sting vanished from the cooling oven hours ago. This one baked forgotten, tucked behind others, like a shy scribe. Steam ghosts rise, carrying sun-swallowed barley's last breath. Crust crackles under your fingers, singing of perfect ember judgment. Burnt patches mimic cuneiform wedges, accidental oven poetry. Historians still debate whether Sumerians preferred blistered crusts. Right now, you prefer whatever sells before noon. You cradle the bread, lopsided warmth against your apron. It sighs, whispering secrets only fire understands. Char smells sweet tonight, like honeyless offerings left for river gods. Dog noses closer, ash-dusted snout twitching toward victory. Break off a blackened corner, watch gray teeth chomp imaginary enemies. Its tail thumps twice, burnt offering accepted. Across the alley, dye vat workers stretch stained arms toward your heat. One mimics grabbing smoke, fingers clutching at nothing. Their indigo palms spark violet in dusk light, living bruises against pale mud walls. Flour sack leans half empty, an accusation in woven reeds. Tomorrow's 60 loaves demand triple barley grind. Millstones echo in memory. Your arms protest, just thinking of dawn's labor. Fat spark winks within ash, a final coal nursing delusions. Toss barley chaff, watch orange defiance flare and die. Even embers crave encores, cool loaf pressed to your forehead, stealing sweat before it falls. Salt stings cracked lips, proof of labor cooked into each bite. 90-degree bakes were standard, though no ancient thermometers survived to confirm. Pigeon lands near dog's prize, strut daring with avian arrogance. Wings flap, scattering ash like misguided snow. Dust coats your sandals, another layer caking tired feet. Priestess's boy returns, empty basket, swinging from bony elbow. 30 loaves vanished down temple gullets, swallowed without blessing or burp. His sandal strap snaps mid-step, improvised cursing ensues. Oven sprite demands extra tonight. He pants, waving broken leather. Sacred extortion, wrapped in child-sized messengers. Your grunt answers, flower handprint, decorates his tunic back. Fingers probe the loaf's belly, softness hiding beneath armor, thinned over centuries. Sumerian bread resembled flat pita more than plump Babylonian loaves. Break it open, watch steam escape like trapped dawnlight. Dog whines, trapped between guarding crumbs and begging fresh bites. Sharing rewards patience. Your delay teaches canine calculus. Wind shifts, carrying reed smoke from upstream beer breweries. Workers laugh loud, fermentation, courage fueling off-key hymns. Your throat parches, copper coins won't stretch for ale tonight. Bread cools too fast, fading from treasure to commodity. Wrap it in stained linen, delay the inevitable haggling. Dog shadows, every move furry, accounting for shares owed. Rubble shifts, behind the oven drunken rats, midnight stumble. Traps sit empty, fish oil bait, hardened into amber. Vermin outsmarted you again, tiny pharaohs of the garbage piles. Girl creeps near, river snail cup clutched like diamonds. She learned nothing from morning's rejection. Lay the worst crust aside. Her sticky fingers will claim it anyway. Canal slurps against stones, swallowing moonlight in greedy gulps. Broken pottery jabs your heel, reminder to sweep tomorrow. Tonight, just find the stool without tripping. Linen wrap sheds threads, mocking your unraveling patience. Secure the bundle with date pit glue sticky enough to irritate buyers later. Dog sprawls full length, burnt, offering coma achieved. Its paws twitch, chasing dream rabbits through ghost fields. Count coin pouch split copper into piles. Millet, salt, palm oil. Forget figs, luxury died with last month's tax hike. Stale loaf cracks like mud brick. Sound echoing off silent alleys. Chew slow, pretend barley tastes like royalty's roasted ducks. It doesn't. Ziggurat gong trembles bones. 3 strikes demand curfew. Torches flicker awake, a long procession street, guiding priests toward feather beds. Your palate waits, a mat over hard-packed earth. Girl reappears, climbs onto abandoned stool. Her snail cup sits between you, peace, offering from the persistent. Split the final crust, watch grubby fingers dismantle it systematically. She extracts snail meats, plops one into your palm. Slimy protein winks under moon glow. Dog sits up, suspicion, narrowing yellow eyes. Challenge accepted, you swallow the morsel whole. Salt and river mud explosion, better than hunger's hollow sting. Girl grins, gap-toothed, triumph flashing. She earned this alliance, future snail trader in the making. Oven ticks, counting cooling breaths of day-old stones. Palm its curve, absorb the memory of heat. Some bakers slept against their ovens, dreaming flour visions for luck. You lack the insanity or the back pain tolerance. Rise bones creaking outdated complaints. Girl scampers off, bare feet slapping toward fish gutter alley. Ash settles gray snow over your domain. Dog follows homeward, snout nudging your calf like living bread tacks. Far downstream, a drunk wails about lost love. His lament drifts, blending with night heron's rusty calls. One hand steadies the flour sack, the other grips coins. Tomorrow starts in 5 hours. Breathe deep, buzzardless sky arches overhead. Palms itch, eternal yeast colonies whispering beneath skin. Dog sneezes twice, startling a snoozing gecko. Laughter surprises you, a foreign sound in moonlit exhaustion. Home's curtain flaps, damp wool smelling of mildew and mint. Kneeling, you trace the oven's heat pattern in memory. Dough awaits sticky rebellion rising in clay bowls. Close your eyes. Dawn stalks closer unseen, but felt in weary joints. Dog sighs, flopping across sore feet. Sleep comes not as surrender but ceasefire. The bread cools, the market sleeps. The river flows, carrying tomorrow toward your doorstep. Damp wool curtain clings to your forearm, reeking of last week's fish oil experiment. Dawn hasn't broken, just cracked its knuckles over the river. First buyers shuffle, bare feet slapping mud bricks in rhythm. Their eyes seek steam. Your oven exhales only lazy gray wisps. That fisherman crouches near the ash pile again. Silver carp glisten in his reed basket, 3 days past fresh. Historians confirmed fish markets operated daily. Your nose confirms this catch skipped a few markets. He plucks a scale, watches it flutter like tarnished coin. Bread for breakfast, bread for bait. He croaks, throat scarred by salt winds. 2, carp your left loaf. That's his opening gambit. Bronze blades of morning light slice between you, barter table made of shadows. You unwrap the worst loaf, half-burnt underside facing upward. Dog sniffs, then retreats behind your ankles. Wise creature, your bread smells like burning, he accuses, flicking fish gill crumbs off his tunic. Your fish smells like forgetting. You counter, not looking up. Cold river air licks your neck, carrying away warmth from yesterday's labor. Across the canal, dates ferment in cracked jars behind date farmer's hut. Some traders claim fish preserved better in honey. But those merchants also sold mermaid bones carved from camel ribs. His calloused thumb prods a carp's cloudy eye. It doesn't blink. Your stomach groans. Last night's barley portent haunting you still. Bargaining begins in silence. Eyebrow raises, chin jerks, rust-eaten scales weighed against singed crusts. 1 fish, half loaf. His headshake sends greasy hair flying. Wild roosters crow upstream, false sunrise alarm clocks. Early barges creak, carrying stone downstream for ziggurat repairs. Fish scales stick to your sandal, iridescent annoyance, winking with each step. He shoves the basket forward, reek, intensifying. 3 carp for 4 loaves. Optimism, worthy of temple hymns. Dog's tail thumps once, judging from safe distance. Coinless trade ruled these alleys before kings demanded stamped bronze discs. Scholars still bicker whether barter started with bread or beer. Your empty stomach votes for bread. Rotating the least offensive loaf, you expose its golden cheek to dawn's inspection. His nostril twitch denotes professional interest. 2 medium loaves, 1 fish. His sulk could sour milk. Carp eyes stare upward, mute witnesses to breakfast warfare. Legend claims sacred temple fish predicted harvests. This one predicts indigestion. I gutted them at moon high. He lies, dried blood flakes betray midday slaughter. A single sparrow dives, snatching fish scale from dust before escaping. You break bread's edge, inner steam escapes with a hiss. His swallow echoes louder than priestess's gong. Deal struck 2 fish, 3 small loaves wrapped in reed paper. Historians love documenting grain prices. Few mention how barter required smelling opponents' breath for weakness. He retreats, fishless basket slapping bony hip. Dog circles discarded scales, suspicious of anything shiny. Priestess's boy returns empty again. He eyes remaining fish. You slide it behind a flour sack. Temple taxes already stole half your dawn. Broken sandal strap flaps as he departs, improvised sand writing tomorrow's problem. Dog noses the fish, then sneezes violently. Your fingers brush carp scales, cool as morning dew, grimy payment for pre-dawn kneading. Yet protein beats another barley monotony. A distant donkey brays, overpriced millstones grinding in its wake. Copper coins jingle in your belt, a hollow choir against fish stink. River breeze shifts, washing sour air downstream towards washerwomen's curses. Bread scent fades, fish musk rises victorious. The oven exhales, its last warmth kissing your elbow goodbye. The crushed loaf smolders in your palm, still whispering its burnt secrets. Dawn's copper light creeps across the courtyard. No buyers left now. Not even stray dogs patrol their bellies, sagging with stolen crusts. You tear the bread, half charred, half almond gold, exposing its steaming heart. Steam rises, a ghost begging for release. Priests taught the first loaf belongs to heaven or temple coffers. You offer it to the kiln instead. Her brick mouth gapes, still breathing warmth like a sleeping beast. Legend claims clay ovens housed minor gods, spirits born from flame and earth. Those scholars never scraped soot before breakfast, though. Crumble the burnt edge, let charred bits rain into embers. The oldest texts urge feeding household deities. Scorch marks were their favorite spice. Grateful fires crackle louder, or maybe it's your tired ears inventing praise. Ash clings to your wrist, gray as the Euphrates under winter fog. A succulence blooms on your tongue. No honey, no dates, just grain's honest sting. 3 generations kneaded dough on this stone. The floor wears their footprints in smooth hollows. Historians still argue whether daily bread rituals fed gods or funded priestly lunch feasts. Your teeth crunch a pebble hidden like betrayal in the flour. Cold seeps into the oven's bones, promising future backaches. Shadows stretch longer, tired as your arms after 40 loaves. You lick a crumb off your thumb, tasting yesterday's sweat and rebellion. Children left a palm-sized goddess figurine last week, now crusted in flour. You dab honey on her clay lips, paying protection tax against tomorrow's burned batches. Some vendors whisper temple bread was deliberately bland, fear of outshining Enki's feast tables. Extra charity now insurance against divine envy. Blistered fingers find the oven's last heat, barely bigger than a date pit. Press your spine against its crumbling side. Let warmth trickle into muscles. The scribe next door claims Eridu's head baker wrote the first love poem to his kiln. Romance requires less sweat, you suspect. Evening wind sneaks through the market, rattling empty reed baskets. Tomorrow begins in 6 hours. Flour already coats your dreams. A moth dives into cooling embers, brief spark gone. You swallow the last unburnt bite, closing the contract between hunger and hearth. Heat shimmers above the oven's mouth, wave-warped visions of the canal beyond. Your knuckles sting where dough tore skin, crimson blossoms in a flour-dusted battlefield. Sweat carves salt trails through soot stripes on your neck, the true baker's war paint. You slide 10 loaves onto reed mats, their crusts singing soft arpeggios in the coals. That's when the first giggle erupts, half swallowed behind the barley sacks. Small shadows ripple, lizards frozen mid-sachet along the mud brick wall. 50 generations of sticky fingers haunt this marketplace. Ancestral thieves perfected their craft before wheels rolled into Mesopotamia. Historians still argue whether scribes taught numbers to babies, or whether children invented fractions, stealing figs. A crust-flecked missile arcs over your shoulder, falls short. Charred bread shrapnel pockmarks the dust. 3 grubby hands dart from a pottery cart's shadow, snatch casualties of the edible war. One boy wears his tunic backwards, head poking through the hem like an overgrown turtle. Market toddlers here learn stealth before walking. Or so the beer sellers grouse each dawn. You turn slow as the sundial's shadow, pretending to inspect oven pebbles. Little feet patter through flour drifts, leaving tiny imprint constellations. A girl's braid drips date syrup onto her shoulder. She licks it clean mid-sprint. Scholars' scrolls claim temple schools disciplined youths. But your courtyard suggests anarchy reigned beyond temple walls. Coolness brushes your ankle-tiny fingers, lifting the reed mat's edge. You let half a botched loaf tumble free, wide-eyed triumph blooming behind the water jug. That flatbread became a frisbee against the mill wall, sacrificed to gravity-driven children's sports. Maybe broken bread fueled more Sumerian dreams than whole loaves. Crumbs travel farther in small pockets. Ha escapes your lips sound ricocheting off clay jars. Tiny bodies freeze, wide eyes reflecting oven glow like mirror-polished obsidian. 7 breaths held 7 statues ready to flee. You hum tunelessly, busy studying the ceiling's mud-wasp nests. Half-heartedly, the thaw begins with one stifled snort, then domino giggles erupt. Bare feet slap earth, a retreat measured in stolen crusts, and shrill victory yelps. Your oven's western side now sports charcoal handprints, 5-fingered graffiti claiming territory. One straggler remains a boy clutching your worst-baked loaf like a clay tablet prize. Honey glazes his chin, evidence of earlier heists. He offers a crumpled palm flower, petals frayed pink as sunrise, plucked from some merchant's ditch garden. You nod stiffly, trading failure bread for wilting beauty. The flower joins the clay goddess behind the grindstone tiny altar of pilfered gratitude. Silence swoops back, sudden as a dropped basket. Wind ruffles abandoned reed mats, ghosts of sticky fingers, already plotting tomorrow's tax rates. You kick flour over the tiny footprints, erasing evidence. Let historians debate child labor laws. Your books balance in giggles per loaf. Heat rolls off the bricks in weary sighs, echoing your own breath. A brown sparrow lands, pecks at the crumbs your little lords rejected. You flick it, a millet seed, levying the avian tax next. Supper tonight will taste of scorch and surrender, and something like pride. Shadows stretch longer than a merchant's greed, sunlight thinning to amber wash over the market stalls. Your last decent loaf cools under linen, its crust sighing as steam escapes into twilight. That sparrow's long gone, stuffed on millet and rebellion. Hoofbeats thud slow as a dying heartbeat from the westward dust road. A camel blinks at you with lashes woven from sand and annoyance. Its rider sways, water skins sloshing against his hip like a drunkard's apology. Ever notice how desert travelers smell like regret and goat musk? Waters turned to piss-warm slurry. His voice rasps over cracked lips. Trade for bread, camel's milk's fresh, fresh sour. You glance at the bloated water skin, knowing Euphrates mud flavors every sip. Caravans crisscrossed Mesopotamia for centuries, their roots stitching together cities like beads on a string. The nomad shoves the skin forward, drops slither down its sides like translucent snails. Camel hair tufts float in the liquid, dancing little spirals of questionable hydration. Historians still argue whether sour milk was a nomad delicacy or just their resignation to rotten luck. His free hand pats the saddlebag, stirring up fermented cloud stench. You've met these desert rats before, always swapping curdled dairy for honest bread. Legend says date palm spirits sour their milk, but you suspect lax hygiene. 3 loaves land in his empty grain sack, their weight pulling the cloth into sagging defeat. You take the milk skin, its leather slimy with existential despair. The camel snorts, spraying your ankles with nostril drizzle. Fair winds. He croaks, already kicking his mount into a resentful plod. The beast groans, sounding exactly like your spine after 13 hours of oven tending. Camel drivers pioneered ancient trade networks, their beasts carrying everything from lapis-lazuli to bad attitudes. The milk sloshes mournfully as you tilt it toward a clay cup. Clotted globs plop, swimming in grayish liquid that winks at you under the fading light. You've heard tales of men hallucinating after drinking desert milk, seeing winged lions in the dunes. Tonight's dreams just got interesting. Flames gutter low in the oven, no longer hungry. Stars prick the sky sharp as bread knives thrust through black linen. You sip the sourness, wincing as it claws down your throat, yet smiling. Travelers pay in silver for stories, but you got yours free. The camel driver's stink still clings to your hands. Coins jingle behind you like a coaxing finger snap. A jar blocks the sunset, glass swollen with liquid amber under its wax seal. Date syrup glistens, thick as a merchant's promises, held by a plump man grinning like a sand fox. Gild your barley bricks. He purrs, tapping the jar. Even Nisaba's temple scribes crave this sweetness. You know the rest, his pitch polished from 50 mornings of market groveling. Ancient merchants hoarded date syrup, trading it for silver weight for weight in Babylon's markets. His thumb uncorks the jar, releasing a smell like stolen summer. Too rich for bread born of ashes and canal water. Some fools claim fermented date sap opens portals to underworld feasts, but you prefer dizziness from heat, not delusion. Just drizzle. He wiggles sticky fingers. Watch buyers grovel like temple beggars. Shadows deepen, hiding the dead fly floating near the syrup's edge. You push the jar back, its residue gluing your palm to the clay. Historians still argue whether commoners sweetened bread, or if honey was hoarded by nobles clutching their tooth rot. He huffs, sealant cracking like his fragile pride. Your loaves whisper austerity like a monk's pantry. Flames lick the oven's hungry mouth behind you. Fire needs no bribes to sing. A bread peel slaps your calloused palm, and barley's bland honesty beats sugar-coated lies. The merchant retreats, cradling his syrup like a slighted child. Sunset stains his robe the color of drying blood. Date palm wine might make sense if you sold weakness, but smoke-seared bread scorns adornment. Embers spit at his shadow, approving your choice. Bitumen's thick scent cuts through the date syrup's ghost, a welcome assault. The potter crouches by your oven, his shadow bent like a question mark. Bit-Nashrim never speaks, his tongue severed during capture. Or so children whisper near the canal's edge, yet his hands argue eloquently, knuckles scarred from a lifetime wrestling wet earth. He offers 3 bowls, cracks sealed with black river tar. You recognize their bellies, slopes shaped under your own thumb's last moon cycle. Potters salvaged shattered vessels like this, bitumen cheaper than fresh clay when harvests failed. Mainstream history forgets their menders, fixers of the world's fractures. One bowl leaks slightly, tar bubbling, where heat bullied the seal. You tilt it, watch a sluggish drip distort your reflection. A half smile pulls your lips. Fringe myth claims potters stole their craft from underwater gin, marrying clay spirits under crescent moons. Looking at Bit-Nashram's burnt forearms, you doubt any bride would choose those blisters. You stack crusty barley loaves in his lap, twice his usual fee. He blinks, weather-cracked eyelids sealing for 3 heartbeats. No haggling needed, a relief after Syrup Man's sugar-coated greed. Historians still argue whether artisans traded goods directly or haggled through water-bearer intermediaries. Watch Bit-Nashram's calloused grip on warm bread. That's your answer. His glance flicks to the oven's base, where his clay holds your fire captive. A humble alliance, his mud containing your heat, your bread, fueling his furnace. Without him, your trade crumbles like sun-dried brick. He taps 2 fingers over his heart, a gesture older than cigarettes. You tap your chest, ash dust puffing from your tunic. His snort sounds like a donkey suppressing laughter. If donkeys grasped irony, nobody knows why potters avoid shoes, his bare soles flaked with dried Euphrates mud. People claim it grounds their craft, connects them to earth gods. You suspect it's just cheaper. He retreats, hugging loaves like firstborn sons. Danube shells click on his belt, trinkets from his granddaughter, who thinks river beads ward off kiln accidents. You saved his girl last flood season, hauling her from the swollen canal. Now he overmends your bowls, bitumen glooped in clumsy gratitude. Coins clink in your belt, their weight unbalanced. 5 copper discs for 30 loaves. Bit-Nashram's repairs cost 5 times that, yet market math feels hollow when his fingers tremble, inhaling steam from fresh bread like a healing ritual. Some debts live outside ledgers, a truth no cuneiform tablet can capture. Thirst scrapes your throat, last water skin drained hours ago. You eye the leaking bowl, tar tainting its reservoir. A shrug, then a deep gulp. Bitumen bitterness blends with tepid water, an acquired taste thicker than regret. Better than merchant syrup, cleaner than bargaining. A child's laughter chases Bit-Nashram down the alley, mocking his silent shuffle. His shoulders don't flinch. He's survived louder mockery before sunrise. You hurl a burnt crust at the brat, missing deliberately. They scamper, shrieking half-hearted curses. Discipline, via carbohydrate baker justice, served lukewarm. Late sunlight stripes the cooling oven, clay contracting like tired muscle. 3 new bowls now guard your table, their patched bellies proof against tomorrow's battering. You smear wet dough along their seams, final reinforcement. Bitumen softens when warmed like stubborn hearts near a good fire. Your knife scrapes charred crumbs from the oven floor, black flecks salting tomorrow's dough. Bit-Nashram's repairs bought you time, not immortality. Year's end, this oven cracks beyond salvation. Someone's grandson will rebuild it, probing mud layers like an archaeologist reads bones. Dust powders your forearms, gray ash settling into lifelines. Palm prints on everything today: dough, clay, merchant glass, potter's tears. You blow the grit away, a futile exhalation against time's erosion. Fitting that fingers shaping temporary bread also handle clay bound to outlast empires. Oven heat dwindles its breath, now a drowsy sigh. Cobblestones chill your knees, echoing Bitnashram's stiff departure. 30 years from now, you'll both crumple like overfired vessels. But tonight, his bowls hold water. Your bread holds hunger at bay. Victory wears humble rags. The copper coins gnaw at your waist, each bitter disc a bad tooth. 30 baked, 30 traded, 30 now reduce you to 13 coppers. Dawn feels bankrupt compared to this fevered accounting. Apprentices could paint these profits on clay tablets if you could afford ink. Mainstream archives overflow with merchant loan records, yet silence about what bread belt poverty smells like. Your fingers prod the belt, calculating dinner through copper. Millet gruel tonight, thin as a scribe's excuses. 5 coins for barley flour tomorrow, 3 for the woodbringer's crooked tamarisk logs. History forgets most bakers ate crumbs, while priestesses breakfasted on honey-roasted duck. Historians still argue whether taxes were collected monthly or by each temple's whim. Try telling that to your gut, growling on quarterly emptiness. Dusty linen scratches your hip where coins bite like jealous lovers. Barley prices rose again, miller's greed blooming under drought sun. You kick a pebble, watching it skitter into shadows. Fringe legends claim pebbles are hardened moon tears, the lunar god weeping over human arithmetic. If true, the night sky salts every loaf with divine despair. High-pitched giggling cuts the dusk. Mill girl leans against your stall. Sunbowl's braids drip with shell trinkets, her father's wealth clattering on each step. She fans herself with a palm leaf, though evening brings mercy. Tidings barley flour costs 18 coppers tomorrow. She chirps, too sweet for poison news. Unless her fingers hover near your last decent bowl, where river shells await trade. 3 shells today for 2 days' flour. You snap, old moon's bargain. She wrinkles her nose, disdain perfected since puberty. Father says shells hide evil river spirits spit now, bring bronze or starve. Her sandal taps, impatient drumbeat of power. 5 clay discs between your ribs testify your helplessness. The shells glow dull white, gifts from Bitnashram's granddaughter last flood month. Take 4 shells, and this redrapped carp head, you bluff, carcass rotting behind the oven since noon. Sunbowl's gasp ruffles flies off the fish. That stinks worse than your bread taxes. Exactly, rats chewed through the priestess larder last night. A pause, her pupils widen, malicious joy kindling. 40 loops of fishing gut, if you deliver the head. Fishing line worth twice your flour. A sly grin cracks your lips. Done before morning incense burns. She departs, kicking the carp head, north toward temple stores. A jerk her father won't punish. Temple rats his favorite alibi. Crickets chant from cracked mud bricks, their rhythm syncing with coin clicks in your belt. Natural philosophers swore insects sang profit totals if you understood chirp arithmetic. Fools, they sing funeral rites, every note a crumb erosion can't reclaim. Shadows stretch, merging into one black shawl over the city. Your stomach howls, echoed by distant jackals prowling garbage mounds. Empty bowls mock you, their empty bellies pitiless. Only the eastern sky stays honest, no false promises before dawn. Star patterns shift, moon's pale face judging your hustling. Some moon cultists believed Selene counted our profits nightly, her craters tallying embezzled grains. Cold comfort, whenever moonlight costs nothing to breathe. You lick the last tar-sealed bowl, bitumen and damp barley crust. Flavor flat as your future. Yet beneath potter's clay holds firm, stubborn against decay. Night insects harmonize, drowning coin clink with life's indifferent chorus. Tomorrow shells traded bargains struck. Tonight the stars lend their silence freely. River mud squelches underfoot, each step threatening to steal your sandal. Sweat paints your back sticky as unset honey. The oven's heat gnaws at your shadow, shrinking it into ash-colored submission. Reeds tremble downriver, their laughter carried on stolen breezes. Ghost whispers dance just beyond reach, mocking your scorched kneecaps. You lean against the clay dome, its surface hot enough to singe arm hair. Temples built palaces with marsh reeds, bundling them tight for ceilings that breathed. Your mud-brick perch feels crude by comparison, yet no imperial architect ever baked 30 loaves before dawn. Historians still argue whether reed harvests followed flood cycles or some lunar calendar lost to dust. Try proving either theory while sweat stings your eyes. Shadows stretch thin, noon sun burning away mercy. A wind rustle teases your nape, cool phantom fingers retreating fast. River grasses sway, tempting you toward their damp sanctuary. Woodpecker rhythms echo from distant tamarisks, nature's own baker pounding bark into dust. A fish leaps, silver belly flashing like a tossed coin. You hesitate, oven heat pulsing against your thigh. Fringe legends claimed reeds, whispered messages upstream if you knew how to listen. Prophet tramps swore they heard confessions of drowned merchants in each rustle. Poets compared frayed stalks to split tongues, forked and hissing gossip. Modern reeds just sound thirsty. Your water jug sits empty, clay sides, sweating condensation like a guilty informant. Trust a vessel to mirror your own weaknesses. 3 palm logs smolder inside the oven, oxygen-starved and sulking, another feeding too soon, though your arms scream rebellion. Bread scent weaves through sweat stink, barley's humble perfume. Steam curls from a crack, fugitive moisture, fleeing toward cooler realms. Watch it vanish, that ghost breath return to oblivion. How many vapors escape daily, uncounted farewells rising through cracks in creation. You squint downstream where Euphrates licks abandoned fishing weirs. Ducks bicker among papyrus, their beaks, snapping horsefly hors d'oeuvres, could wade there easily, knee-deep in relief. Might even spot fat carp sliding through silt clouds. The oven hisses, a serpent warning from clay guts. One moment, inattentive, flames become embers. Embers become ruin. Worse than letting bread burn, letting fire die, would shame 3 generations of your lineage. River breeze swirls again, this time carrying mildew musk and rotting lotus. Under your calluses, clay still pulses with stored heat, memory imprisoned in earth, yesterday's fire dreaming in dark vaults. You peel your forearm from the dome's skin, protesting like old parchment. A pink stripe blooms, oven's love bite branding dedication. Some moon-addled scholar probably cataloged these marks somewhere, ranking bakers by scar symmetry. Let them write until fingers bleed. You measure wounds in surviving customers. Children's laughter bursts from behind date palms, chasing a dog dragging stolen bread. Their souls slap mud, happy percussion for your misery. At least the carpet deal paid off. Stitching the priestess roof didn't even blister your hands. Net twine now secures tomorrow's flour sack. Trade winds blowing kind for once. A dragonfly lands on your knee, iridescent body, throbbing like miniature bellows. Its wings catch light, stained glass forged by feverish sun. You hold still, half hoping it'll suck the heat from your skin. Fools worshipped these jeweled flies as Anu's messengers, ignoring how they startle at their own shadows. True to form, it rockets away, spooked by a falling leaf. Your spine groans as you rise. Palm leaves rustle, wet tongues licking air from the north. Might rain tonight, or just another breeze teasing your resolve. Either way, you feed the oven another log, yielding to duty's scorching embrace. Grain dust coats your fingertips, rough ghosts of last season's harvest. You wipe them across your tunic, streaking linen the color of parched soil. Barley whispers as you scoop more flour, its voice dusty and familiar. Each handful summons sickle blades, flashing bronze in distant fields. Harvest memories stick like chaff to sweat-damp skin. The oven exhales, breath smelling of old sunshine trapped in stalks. You remember men hunched like herons, slicing stems low with curved flints. Your brother sang work chants, voice cracking under the sun's weight. Historians still argue whether harvest songs praised gods or just cursed the heat. Listen close, and you'll hear both in every verse. A flour sack leans nearby, burlap worn thin as a widow's shawl. Fringe tales claim grain store's dream, plotting rebellion against the oven. Poets wrote of vengeful barley spirits, haunting bakers who wasted crumbs. Reality's duller, just moths fluttering toward their fiery end. You tap the sack, releasing a golden cloud. Particles swirl, dancing like drunk fireflies. One lands on your lip, tasting of earth and stubbornness. Swear it still carries river silt stolen during the flood's last gasp. Yeast bubbles in the clay bowl, tiny mouths devouring sugar. Watch it foam, life born from abandonment. 5 days you starved the starter until it wept forgiveness. Now it ferments eager as a warhorse smelling battle. Palm logs crack inside the dome, spitting embers at your shins. Heat paints the air wavy, distorting the riverbank beyond. A fisherman's reed boat flickers, blurred into a mirage of sticks, trick of the eyes, or last year's harvest haunting you. You plunge hands into dough, cool slop, yielding under knuckles. Kneading rhythms match sickle strokes from memory, palm heel thrusts echoing field labor, 70 strokes per loaf, or so your grandfather insisted. His ghost glares if you miscount. Children's shouts drift from irrigation ditches, their play chasing dragonflies, their bare feet tread on buried harvests, every step pressing forgotten seeds deeper. Archaeologists someday will puzzle over those tiny footprints, mistaking play for sacred rites. Barley grit lodges under your nail, a miniature trophy of survival. Last autumn's drought halved the yield, yet here flour remains. Rats ate better than priests that winter, though neither admitted it. Sweat drips off your nose, plunging into the dough's pale flesh. Salt your grandfather never measured. The yeast gurgles approval, carbonating your suffering. You divide the mass, palm-slapping portions into submission. 23 loaves today, 4 fewer than the flood season. The math stings worse than oven heat. Dust motes catch slanting light, rising smokes, shy cousins. A swallow dives through them, snatching breakfast on the wing. Wonder if birds recall harvest days, gorging on spilled grain. Their songs never hint at gratitude. First dough ball hits the peel, quivering like a scared hare. Slide it toward the oven's maw, where heat blurs the bricks. Dark mouth swallows your offering, returning only crackling echoes. Shadows lean eastward, stretching tired limbs like laborers. River breeze pushes through reeds, carrying the mill's rhythmic groan. Grinding stones never sleep, only pause to siphon hope. A scarred locust clings to the oven wall, body armored in obsidian shine. Its jaws twitch, tasting baked air. Beetle-brained scholars once claimed locusts guided Anu's chariot, pure nonsense. They're just hungry, like everyone else. You flick it toward the river, wings whirring in protest. Flight path weaves drunkenly, a living hieroglyph of annoyance. Another loaf meets the flames, its fate sealed with a hiss. Blisters already bubble on the crust, tiny shields against annihilation. Charred patches bloom like ink on papyrus, each a story of near death. Raising bread to mouths without raising rebellion, that's the true craft. Palace frescoes show smiling harvesters, their sickles gleaming like festival toys. Missing are the blisters and debt collectors lurking beyond the frame. Your back groans, muscles knotting into clay lumps. Stretch upward, fingertips grazing a date palm's lowest frond. Momentary relief till gravity reclaims its tithe. Evening's first stars wink awake, pale sentinels ignoring your thirst. Grain dust has migrated to your eyebrows, frosting you like a half-baked ancestor. Women winnowing chaff last autumn wore such masks, their laughter now ash in your lungs. You pat the remaining dough, springy beneath flower-coated palms. Alive in a way bricks can't comprehend. Countless harvests fist-fought their way into this moment, scythe strokes beating in time with kneading slaps. Coolness brushes your ankle, surprise gift from creeping twilight. The oven's heat falters, no longer devouring shadows whole. Clay exhales stored warmth, a shrinking island in the dark. Tomorrow's flour sacks huddle near the millstones, plotting their dominion over your spine. River flows, oblivious as ever. Moonrise stains bread loaves blue their crusts, hardening into armor. Crack one open steam escapes singing the hymn of endurance. This night, like every night, you bite into time itself. Morning light stings your eyes, the priestess's shadow already darkening your kneading stone. Lapis-lazuli beads click against her basket, each stone hauled from mines beyond the eastern mountains. Historians measure temple power by their lazuli hoards, enough here to buy 3 river barges. Her linen robes smell of cedar oil, temple storage rooms seeping into every thread. 40 loaves, her voice carves the order into the air, unblemished. No char, or your oven feeds the kiln tomorrow. You count your stacked bread, 37 survivors of the night's heat. 3 gaps yawn like missing teeth. The priestess taps her sandal, toe, ring glinting copper in the dust. Her guards hover behind, spears angled to catch the sun's glare. One scratches his neck, temple lice, thriving in those starched sashes. Palace carvings show priests devouring god feasts. But these boys just hunger for their breakfast. You lift a loaf, its underside paler than moon-bleached bone. The fire-favored 37, her hand flashes. Cold lapis beads press your wrist. Did Inanna favor excuses when descending to the underworld? Stale joke among bakers circulates. Gods never digest what they demand. Archaeologists found goddess-shaped bread molds, their curves designed to burn evenly. Kings ate the sacred loaves anyway. Divinity tasted better toasted. Heat pricks your neck, not from the oven this time. The last 3 bake now, flames willing. She sniffs, nose wrinkling at the yeast's tang. Flames obey those who measure correctly. Your tax scrolls say 70 sacks last month, yet your loaves shrink. Dust swirls around her feet, conspiring with your silence. Temple scribes track grain like war provisions, every sack hostage against obedience. You slide 3 dough balls onto the peel, their weight feels perilously light. One wobbles, dancing toward the oven's brink. Historians still argue whether temple quotas funded real feasts or just fed bureaucrats' vanity. Evidence rots faster than bread. Both leave only crumbs. The priestess fingers her crescent amulet, silver, dulled by endless prayers. 9 generations of your lineage tended this oven. Would your ancestors stutter at 40? An ember pops, scattering ash like gray pollen. You recall grandfather's warning, never argue with temple math. Their numbers numbers bend like reed in floodwater, always drowning the small. Smoke curls around the priestess, a transparent halo stinging your eyes. She waves it away, impatient as a vulture circling wounded prey. Her guards shuffle, spear butts drawing circles in the dirt. First of the final loaves blackens suddenly, a sacrifice to distracted tending. You rake it out, scorched, offering dark as a moonless midnight. Her sigh could wither date palms. 40-1. Sweat writes maps down your spine, each droplet a useless negotiation. 2 dough rounds remain pale as frightened faces. The oven's roar softens coals, settling into sullen orange. You thrust the peel deeper, bricks scorching your forearm. Blisters rise instantly, fees paid for haste. Shadows shrink, sun climbing toward judgment high. Linen bandages your father, wrapped around the handle unravel, threads kissing flames. Second loaf emerges gold-crusted, its surface patterned like turtle shell, perfection worn as armor. 38. Her voice betrays nothing. A donkey brays downriver, mocking your tally. Last loaf clings to the peel, refusing to slide free. A priestess footstep echoes, one heartbeat closer to demolition orders. You jiggle the wooden blade, dough quivering above infernal tiles. It drops, landing crooked beside its kin. Fire licks its flank, a lopsided birthmark. Her fingers drum the basket rim, lapis clicks, counting your failures. 39. The furnace workers miss their warmth already. River breeze snuffs a coal, your spine icing despite the heat. Guards pivot spears, catching sunlight like winks from amused gods. You clutch the peel, blistered palms screaming. One last dough ball waits, orphaned on the kneading slab. Barely larger than a child's fist, her sandal grinds pebbles. Temple kitchens have exact scales. You fling the raw dough into the oven's throat, heresy in any season. It sizzles, swelling instantly into a deformed lump, blackened within breaths, a burnt fist raised against reason. Retrieving the abomination, you offer the blackened knot. 40. She studies it, lapis beads frozen mid-click. Historians will forever debate whether gods savor burnt offerings or just savor obedience. A smile cracks her face, thin as a cuneiform wedge. The temple commends your precision. Basket lids lift the guards, loading 39 survivors and 1 charcoal corpse. One boy hesitates, eyeing the rejected burnt first loaf. The priestess snaps her fingers. Even scorched bread nourishes the kiln gods. They march off, baskets tilting under stolen weight. Lazuli beads echo long after they vanish, clicking like an abacus, tallying your defeat. Your oven exhales, ash swirling where 40 loaves once slept. The oven's ash settles like a dirty shroud, 30 loaves left cooling on reed mats. Their warmth mocks you. 50 shadows lengthen toward your stall workers and weavers, drawn by yeast-scented smoke. Sun-bleached tablets prove Sumerians measured hunger with math. Baseminus 60 fractions etched in clay. Your thumbs press into a loaf's side, dividing it into sixths before reasoning intervenes. 6 shares per loaf means 5 mouths fed per bread. Simple, until human desperation walks up grinning. A mortar-crusted laborer arrives first, his arms still trembling from hauling bricks. He slaps down a clay token marked with Urnammu's seal for daily wages. Palace records show such tokens bought 2 full loaves last week. Your knife splits one into thirds, honey glaze disguising the shrinkage. He scowls, counting fingers like a child learning sums. Since when does shamus rise for half rations? You point westward, where temple granaries bulge like overved vipers. Ask the moon-silvered accountants. They nibble our portions while gods aren't looking. He grabs his third, stuffing it whole into his mouth. Crumbs tumble down his tunic, a waist that tightens your chest. 6 shares gone, 44 souls still swaying in line. 3 canal diggers approach, ankles ringed with dried mud. One holds a cracked cup of beer, sour payment for honest hunger. Historians love debating whether workers drank barley beer for nutrition or just forgot water tasted better. You trade 5 shares for the murky brew, keeping your skepticism silent. Their calloused hands snatch the bread, already splitting fractions further. Brotherhood lasts until crusts shrink. Men who shared pickaxes now bicker over crumbs. A merchant's wife sweeps forward, lapis-dusted eyes judging your dwindling stock. She fans herself with a cedar plaque, order lists for tonight's feast. My husband requires 10 whole loaves, the purest barley, no bran. Her coin purse jingles, promising weight. 5 orphans cluster behind her, their ribs visible through threadbare cloth. You count shares left, 29. Temptation hisses like oven steam. Coin feeds families too, yet your knife refuses to move. 10 loaves feed 50 emptier bellies, yours included if riots start. She huffs, scented oils clashing with sweat-soaked air. My larder shelves groan under imported delicacies, gold-leafed quails, date wine aged, and temple taxmen love auditing gourmands. Your lie flows smoother than date syrup. She retreats, sandals slapping dust like offended ducks. The orphans pounce, grubby fingers outstretched. You break a loaf into 12ths, math bending like fresh dough. One girl licks her piece slowly, savoring each crumb like royal honey. Historians still argue whether children starved first during shortages or mothers quietly surrendered their shares. A cuneiform hymn claims hungry girls sang for Ishtar's mercy, their bones found mid-century under market ruins. A potter limps up his withered leg, dragging pottery shreds. He offers a mendied bowl, bitumen seams zigzagging like drunken scars. For 2 shares, you remember his brother, killed hauling clay for the ziggurat. Grief needs no tokens. 3 pieces disappear into his bowl, charity wrapped in practicality. He nods, too wise to thank you aloud. Favors draw vermin here, both furry and human. 20 shares remain, 23 faces still cloud your periphery. The fish gutters twins sneak behind kneading tables, their sticky fingers aiming for fallen crusts. You snap your peel, wood clacking stone. They freeze, eyes wide as full moons. Steal from my stack, I chop your rations tomorrow. A fringe theory claims Sumerian children played theft games to survive famine. Archaeologists found miniature baker stalls in ruins. Their mother arrives, apron stained with carp blood. She deposits 2 silver-scaled fish, gills barely fluttering. For 4 pieces, you eye the fish, twice the normal asking rate. Hunger sharpens her gaze, a whetstone grinding down pride. 2 shares land on her palm. The fish flop into your water jar. Babylonian recipes suggest stuffing fish with fermented bread. Your stomach cramps at the thought. 18 shares quiver on the mat, each division more brutal than the last. A reed cutter slams his sickle down, blade reflecting the sun's fury. 3 full loaves, or your oven mysteriously cracks tonight. Spear guards cluster near the temple, too far to care. You swallow threats, serving him 1 loaf and 6 shares. Numbers shield you like mud bricks, 7 pieces, more than any other cutter today. He gnaws through 4 shares immediately, jaw working like a starved hound. Your blistered hand inches toward the peeling knife, just in case. 12 shares left, 11 hopefuls, still sweating in line. A linen weaver offers a torn cloak, mended by dawn for 3 pieces. The widow from the iris fields stands behind him, her hands cupping shriveled beetle wings. Insect traders swore they warded off grain moths, quackery peddled during shortages. You give her 2 shares, keeping the beetles. Superstition tastes better than guilt. 8 shares darken under the sun, their crusts hardening into armor. The water-bearer's daughter dances forward, jug balanced on her head. She pours 2 sips into your jar, liquid gold in drought season. 1 share rewards her. You sip the warm water like finest beer. 7 shares, 3 laborers remain. They argue over division, fists clenched over fractions their fathers never taught them. You split the last loaf into 7ths. Each man gets 2 uneven pieces plus your exhaustion. Cheated, the tallest one roars, spittle landing on your last intact mat. Your knife plunges upright into the table wood, vibrating with trapped rage. Complain to the priestess. She's missing 1 loaf if you're brave. They retreat, muttering into the dust. Nile cultures might have whipped dissenters. Sumerians just starved them quieter. Empty mats stare back, stained with oil and desperation. 50 mouths fed, 30 loaves dissected into trembling fractions. Your tally stick notches 30 thin lines, each mark a silent scream. The soldier arrives, bronze helmet swallowing his sunburned face. His spear point taps your knife handle, metal clinking like a death rattle. Coins spill onto the mat, too few for even half a loaf. Payments light. You murmur, blistered fingers counting bronze discs twice. He shifts his weight, leather armor creaking like a hungry jackal. The soldier's knuckles whiten around his spear shaft, bronze rings denting the wood grain. His coins gleam dully on your mat, 8 discs, stamped with Enlil's storm bull. Roman legions got 3 pounds of bread daily. Your customer expects double without the weight. You count the bronze again, knowing refusal risks more than lost profit. Hunger makes loud arguments here. Spear points make louder ones. 5 shares. You declare, palms already sweating onto the knife handle. His laugh scrapes like sand on mud bricks. That buys 1/5 of a palace guard's ration. I track deserters through the marsh. My belly deserves more than a peasant trickle. You flick 2 crusted loaves toward his weapon, barely half the usual size. Ancient tax tablets show soldier bread weighed 30 shekels. These together hit 29. A risky bluff one he might actually know. Archaeologists found charred loaves stamped with regimental seals, proof even kings feared cheating their enforcers. His eyes narrow, measuring the bread against his dagger's blade. 29 shekels buys leniency. Next week. He pockets the loaves, whole coins left glowing on the mat. Historians still argue whether garrison troops starved civilians or just skimmed the top crust. You stare at the bronze discs, 3 short for millet tonight. The spear's shadow stretches across your last clean mat, a phantom portion stolen before baking. His armored back retreats toward the barracks, where ovens never cool. You imagine those eternal flames, fed by temple wheat and peasant toil. Some scholars whisper of secret soldier bakeries, though no kiln remains prove it. The widow shuffles forward her hands, cupping wilted reeds instead of coins. The marsh gave no flowers, only these stalks. Her voice cracks worse than drought soil. You trade 2 shares for hollow stems. Roof, thatching beats, doing nothing, charity disguised as commerce again. 28 notches scar your tally stick, a forest of hungry lines. Workers drift away, their shadows merging with twilight. One last figure lingers, the potter's apprentice clutching a cracked crucible. Mended it myself for half a share. His pride outweighs the shoddy repair bitumen, oozing like black sweat. You break your own hidden loaf remnant, the heel kept for emergencies. Tell your master his kiln breathes better than mine. The boy sprints off, treasure clutched to his chest. Stars prick the violet sky. Your fingers count phantom coins again. 3 bronze discs short, the soldier's arithmetic of power. Night insects tune their legs. Your stomach growls backup vocals. Her shuffling feet kick up pale dust, each step slower than a dying candle's flicker. The widow's shadow stretches toward your dwindling bread pile, thin as a reed pen stroke on damp clay. She opens her palm, revealing 3 iris stems bent at the neck. Petals curl inward, purple, faded to the gray of a month-old bruise. Plucked them from the northern mounds. She whispers, voice rasping like a rusted saw through cedar. Workers burned their dead with floral shrouds, cheaper than stone tombs for the river's teeth. You recognize those blooms, their stems still dusty from grave soil. Burial flowers sell in daylight markets. Mourners pay copper bits for graveside piety. Night pickers risk ghost wrath, but hunger laughs at superstition. People whispered old Queen Puabi's tomb sprouted irises, yearly her corpse demanding fresh offerings. Botanists found parasitic seeds in her headdress, explaining the blooms without phantom gardeners. The widow's knuckles brush your wrist papery as sun-baked scrolls. Her eyelids flutter anchored by grief-swollen sockets. No coins left after the tomb guards took his bronze sickle payment for disturbing royal grounds. Historians still argue whether grave taxes lined priest pockets or funded canal repairs. You glance at her iris stems. Their broken ends weep sticky sap. Some believe petals convey messages to the underworld, scribbles only the dead can read. You wonder what she etched into them, begging or apologies or curses. These'll draw beetles in my roof thatch. Your lie hangs thick like unfiltered beer. Her cracked lips twitch, a ghost of the barter smile she once wielded at fish markets. I'll trade back half the loaf when my nephew's boat returns from Dilmun. Another fiction, everyone knows that ship sank carrying lapis. You lift your last untouched loaf, its crust blistered with pride. Steam still escapes one split seam, the breath of grain that outlived locusts. Fitting payment for a queen's garden, you mutter, placing the bread in her trembling hold. She tucks it inside her tunic, flat against the ribs you count through thin linen. The irises drop onto your palm, petals leaving damp streaks. Their scent clings, part honeysuckle and part freshly turned grave dirt. Scholars once found pressed irises inside a scribe's love poem, possible evidence of romance beyond death. Her fingers dart to her face, catching a tear before you confirm it. Widows here never weep publicly. Salt water insults the dead's thirst. She staggers toward the reed beds where marsh frogs croak funeral chants. Your stomach knots, betrayed by generosity. The irises mock you, dull petals swirling into ash-colored spirals. Temple records mention iris garlands for goddess statues in exchange for fertile harvests. You got wilted stems and one less guilt ringing in your skull. Night beetles swarm the discarded stems, their iridescent shells gleaming like miniature shields. You resist swatting them. Hunger makes poor company for pest control. A distant donkey brays, its cry echoing off mud brick walls. No other customers straggle in the crescent moon, already slicing the sky. You crunch the thinnest iris stem between your teeth, sour sap flooding your tongue. Cowards claim grave, flowers curse the eater, the brave just call it supper. Stars multiply while you chew, flames gutter in neighboring courtyard ovens. 3 bites, then nothing left but petal scraps stuck to your gums. Yesterday's yeast bubbles in your gut, fermenting into tomorrow's fatigue. The widow's loincloth probably bulges with unbitten bread, while your spine grinds against the cooling oven bricks. A wolf howl cuts the south wind, or maybe a drunk fisherman serenading crabs. You picture the widow's gums working that loaf, gnawing crust softer than her cot mattress. Morning will come, and kneading troughs weight emptier than an abandoned bird nest. Your fingers trace the iris remains, sticky ghosts on cracked clay. At least she faced you straight on no spear shadow, extorting extra shares. Sleep drags you toward dreams of unmarked graves, each mound sprouting infinite loaves. You need dough made from iris roots, its purple swirls staining your palms like bruises. The dying oven exhales one last warm sigh against your aching neck. A beetle skitters across your toe, carrying a crumb you never dropped. Far away, a widow's cough echoes through the canals. Stars blur. Cool earth presses against your cheek. The irises whisper, telling the dead how much you sold their bread for. The fire sighs, collapsing into glowing memory. Embers mimic stars, winking through ash. You slump against the clay curve, spine grinding against bricks, still humming with spent heat. Day's last furnace breath tickles your neck, then fades like a drunkard's promise. Your palm skims the oven's throat, where flames roared just hours before. Pebbles crunch under calloused fingers, scorched remnants of your heat test from dawn. Sumerian bakers often used date palm thorns as fuel cheaper than imported cedar when the coffers shrank. Tonight's ashes smell different, tamarisk branch perfume tinged with whatever sadness the widow left behind. Shadows thicken along mud brick walls, crowding your workspace. Coins jab your hip through the linen belt, 47 bronze discs, gnawing flesh like hungry mice. Enough for a ratty goat hair blanket next winter, not enough for the dream floating in your head, baths scented with juniper berries. You laugh, a dry cough interrupting the fantasy. Embers pulse, one final heartbeat before surrender. You scrape gray powder into a cracked pot. Tomorrow's lie for scrubbing grease off clay trays. Some clay mixers swear ash paste heals burns faster than donkey milk poultices. Their wives roll eyes, but keep slathering it on wailing toddlers. Dust motes swirl where flames once twisted, dancing to silent flute songs you can almost hear. A single spark escapes upward, joining stars already crowding the smoke hole. You picture it winking out somewhere above Uruk's ziggurat, the priests below, never noticing its brief journey. Your stomach groans, iris stem aftertaste, still clinging like a jealous lover. Historians still argue whether bakers took night meals privately or considered it sacrilege after feeding others all day. You lick a crust crumb off your wrist, tomorrow's problem salted with today's sweat. Cooling clay groans, contracting like the ribs of some great beast, exhaling its last. An old myth claims Oven's house djinn, who demand bread tributes. Generous bakers supposedly gained invisible guardians. Yours clearly skipped supper tonight, abandoning you to crickets and creeping chill. Coins clink as you shift, bronze biting fresh welts into your hip. Northern traders say 47's a cursed number, linked to a dad's storm wrath. Maybe that explains why the dockside miller jacked his prices, or why the widow's iris stems tasted like regret. You tug a rough wool cloak over your shoulders, moths plotting their next feast along its frayed hem. Embers shrink into tiny red eyes, judging your failure to bank them properly. 11 mouths chewed your bread today. 12, if you count the beetles stealing crumbs. Night air creeps under your cloak, needling through thin linen beneath. You pull your knees up, trying to trap what warmth remains. Ancient temple records mention fire pits, kept blazing through winter nights, luxuries for priests nibbling honey cakes under fir throws. Shivering begins, subtle tremors shifting to chattering teeth. Dawn feels light years away, a myth told by fools huddling under reed mats. Your tongue probes a loose molar, tomorrow's problem, number 16 or 70. Who bothered counting anymore? Horizon glows faintly eastward, not sunrise, just lamps flickering beyond the canals. Urbanites guzzling date wine while discussing merchant ship arrivals. You wonder if their imported cedar logs smoke less than your tamarisk scrub, then snort at your own absurdity. A lizard darts across cooling ash, leaving hieroglyphic footprints near your big toe. You consider grabbing it, skewering it on a tamarisk splinter for a meager midnight roast. It flicks its tail, vanishing into shadows beyond the clay curve. The universe laughs through reptile silence. Your knuckles press into your eyelids, sparking phantom constellations behind them. Maybe that's how Inanna navigated the underworld, star maps etched on her own skin. Poetry from a dead neighbor drifts through memory. Flames birthed in clay wombs, extinguished by mortal exhaustion. Laughter bubbles up hoarse and unexpected. Eshnunna laws punished bakers, for over-cindered bread fines higher than for a broken marriage contract. You picture some ancient magistrate nibbling your loaves, judging crusts between sips of palm wine. Fingers clutch the ash pot tighter, as if its gritty contents might warm you. Someone once traded a lapis bead necklace for 3 measures of lye ash, desperate to whiten burial shrouds for stillborn twins. Tonight, you wouldn't swap it for 7 fat quail, not with grease stains mocking your storage jugs. The moon climbs higher, its silver blade gutting star trails. The widow's cough echoes again, farther away now drowned by marsh frogs. Your empty gut knots around phantom bread, a loaf you baked yesterday, sold this morning, gave away at dusk. Fatigue wins, melting your limbs into the packed earth floor. Ash dust coats your lips bitter as unripe olives. Each inhale tastes of extinguished possibilities. Each exhale fogs the cooling void where fire once lived. Embers wink farewell, then vanish, leaving only the scent of scorched memories. The clay oven sighs one last time, its warmth retreating into the underworld of metalsmith forges and temple incense burners. Darkness swallows everything but the coin's pressure against your hip and the worn trough awaiting tomorrow's dough. Sleep drags you under dreamless for once morning's grind, already sharpening its knives beyond the eastern dikes. A single cricket resumes its chirp, tallying your earnings in broken arithmetic. Clay contracts, ticking like a waterless clock. You lean against its warmth, bones humming with fatigue. Each tiny pop from the oven's ribs echoes through your skull, a misfiring drum in some drunken parade. Even dying fires sound louder when your ears ache from haggling and donkey bells. Moths kamikaze toward the last ember's blush, winged fools mistaking death throes for romance. You swat one absently, dust from its corpse, powdering your eyebrow. At least someone's getting beauty sleep tonight, even if it's the afterlife kind. Your cloak's itch screams louder as heat ebbs, goat hair pranks turning vicious without the oven's distraction. Sumerian clay recipes varied village to village, some adding crushed river shells for extra endurance against the cruel kiss of fire. Yours holds barely, though you've nursed cracks all season with mud and muttered threats. The widow's iris stems sit limp beside your knee, petals translucent as snake skins. Should have traded those for firewood instead of sentiment. Historians still argue whether temple tithes included floral bribes, or if priests just enjoyed watching mortals squirm like beetles on hot bricks. Something scurries behind the water jug, tiny thief casing the joint for forgotten crumbs. You flick a pebble, miss by a mile, your aim as worthless as a reed boat in a sandstorm. Shadows stretch long now, merging with the greater darkness, swallowing your hovel. They say night terrors flee from bread ovens, their smoke clogging demon nostrils. Tell that to the phantom fingers scraping your spine right now, and the cold pooling in your sandals. Coins dig fresh graves into your hip flesh, 47 bronze regrets. Maybe tomorrow you'll splurge on a reed flute, anything to drown out the neighbors snoring through these paper-thin walls. A yawn cracks your jaw, sour as last week's fermenting dough. The oven creaks, clay singing a fractured lullaby older than irrigation canals. Strange how collapsing heat sounds like a mother shushing a feverish child. You press your cheek against the bricks, one final stolen warmth before frost claims the night. Some mad potter in Kish swore kilns whispered advice if you listened at midnight, claimed they taught him blue glaze formulas in their sleep. Yours just sighs about overtime pay and your shoddy ash scooping technique. Stars blink through the smoke hole, indifferent as tax collectors. You count 7, lose track, start again, with the angry red one blinking above If zodiac myths hold truth, that's Loki of the pickpockets. Or maybe just a drunk watchman's lantern swaying on some ziggurat staircase. Tamarisk smoke clings to your tunic, a funeral shroud for the fire's ghost. Tomorrow's flower mites will throw a rave in that scent, tiny revelers dancing through your hard-won barley. Your bladder screams, a traitorous drum solo against the night's fragile silence. The canal's too far, and last month's date wine jug still hides in the corner. Sacrilege, maybe, but bladder relief trumps priestly wrath at this cursed hour. The jug gurgles, echoing like a satisfied demon, 20 generations of ancestors likely grown in their burial mounds. Better than stepping on a scorpion barefoot, or waking the widow's new cough fit with your stumbling. Cool air licks your ankles as you sit back down, sand grit grinding between toes. A loose brick shifts under your weight, a tiny betrayal. Survival Rule 306. Never trust anything that spends all day pretending to be solid. Fatigue pulls at your eyelids, lead weights stitched from spider silk. Worthless temple incense couldn't numb you this fast, though you trade 2 copper discs to see it try. A bat shrieks overhead, darting shadows against deeper shadows. Kitchen witches grind their bones into love potions, or so alehouse whispers claim. Your love life needs less powder, more someone willing to fix your sagging roof in exchange for slightly burnt flatbread. The last pebble drops from the cooling tray, clink, like the miller's daughter, giggling when you tripped over her water bucket last week. Gods, even inanimate objects, mock you after sunset. Dogs bark downstream, probable thieves or probable bureaucrats. Same difference in Ur's moonlit alleys. You pull your cloak tighter, frayed edges dangling like executed criminals, last threads of hope. Sleep arrives sudden, a thief stealing consciousness mid-breath. Dreams bring river serpents, judging your kneading technique. Their hisses sync with the oven's dying ticks, until darkness swallows everything but the phantom scent of dawn's first loaf. Coins weigh your belt, copper biting into hip flesh through thin linen. Each disc presses like a creditor's accusing finger, soothing sleep, fleeing your body like thieves caught mid-burglary. You unknot the pouch, 47 bronze eyes gleaming under moonlight. Enough for 2 sacks of millet, maybe, if the market gods smile. Oil's price laughs from across the river, where temple scribes sip date wine from silver cups behind high walls. A black crown rolls into your palm, a temple tax coin stamped with the horned moon goddess profile. Historians still argue whether Ur's night markets accepted these as common currency, or if priests planted them like landmines in peasants' purses for holy extortion. Your thumb rubs the coin's edge rough as a crocodile's back. That time the river flooded and swept away half your kiln bricks, remember. Repairs cost exactly 47 copper discs too. The universe enjoys cruel punchlines. Moonlight paints stripes across your blistered hands, pale interrogators, demanding why calluses can't be traded for sesame seed luxuries. Forget Babylonian math. Here's your equation. 10 hours squatting before flames equals 1 jar of pickled river grass. Crickets chirp, accounts receivable, their rhythm syncing with the canal's distant gurgle. Pigeons rustle in the thatch, your roof's shoddy insulation against avian squatters. You flick a copper piece skyward, watch it vanish into shadow. 2 seconds pass. Then the soft plink of failure in crumbling mortar. Should have bet on scorpion races instead. Brewer's son won big last week on a 6-legger named Demon Toes. A loose brick shifts under your sandal, betrayal number 13 today. Survival Rule 412. Never trust baked mud after sunset. Breezes snake through reed walls, whispering rumors of frost before dawn. cloaks wool smells like tamarisk smoke and defeat. Sumerian bakers rarely owned more than 2 tunics, except for those supplying palace feasts where roasted peacock wasted more grain than your entire monthly output. Moon-polished stones wink from the courtyard, taunting your pathetic copper hoard. That potter in Kish swore moonlight doubled clay's strength if you prayed naked at midnight. Results were cracked, and the neighbor's gossip lasted 3 flood seasons. You press a coin against your eyelid, hoping cold metal might numb your weariness. Bronze transfers its chill straight to your molars, worse than biting frozen river mud. A donkey brays downstream, probably that sway-backed beast who stole your lunch bundle last Tuesday. Karma owes you 1 moldy fig, payment pending. Coins clink as you stand hips protesting like unoiled gate hinges. Funny how coins feel lighter at dawn while hope bloats. But midnight reverses gravity for both. A loose pebble becomes your mortal enemy, lodging between toe and sandal strap with sadistic precision. You kick it toward the dying oven, hearing it hiss against warm clay. Shadows twist into hungry shapes, stretching across the dirt floor like greedy fingers. Mesopotamia's constellations had whole stories about debt collectors. Lugal, the lone shark chasing Marduk's starving baker across the Milky Way each winter. You count coins again. 47 becomes 46 under the moon's sleight of hand. Did it roll? Did a rat steal? Or did your tired eyes miscount twice? A copper missing feels like a rib removed. Breathing turns jagged. 3 coins bear nail marks, your desperate attempt to prove they were real during that sandstorm panic when counterfeiters flooded the market with gilded pebbles. Foolproof until merchants started biting back. The river sighs while you imagine diving through moonlit reeds for lost bronze. Hypothermia versus dignity. Easy choice, your dignity, abandoned ship seasons ago during the great weevil infestation. Your empty stomach growls, a caged lion demanding tribute. You could nibble tomorrow's barley, but first rule of baking: eating profit means death arrives on donkey-hoofed credit. The widow's iris stems crinkle as you shift them, petals now brittle as papyrus scrolls. Should have asked her what blooms thrive in ash-choked soil. Payment in flowers or firewood, trade winds change direction daily. Moonlight catches a scar across your knuckles. That morning, the oven spat embers while shaping dough snakes for children's festivals. Healers demanded honey. You settled for canal mud and curses. Works, mostly. A bat swoops, snatching moths that once tortured your dying fire. Everyone's hustling. You stack coins into miniature ziggurats, each tier narrower than your options tomorrow. 5 for millet, 3 for salt, 2 for the Mason's emergency brick fund, 1 for river tax bribes. The rest, pure fantasy, like oil or shoes without holes. Stone grinders squeal in dreams, already dawn's cruel overture. 30 loaves before noon, 50 more by sunset. On a belly filled with moonbeams and moths, ghostly laughter. Hip bones press against cold earth, copper guardians, digging fresh trenches in your skin. Sumerian workers, often buried payment disputes. Clay tablets reveal lawsuits lasting decades over missing barley sacks. Your missing copper would have fueled 3 court dramas and 1 temple frieze. You close your eyes, moonlight imprints glowing coins on your eyelids. Sleep comes in jagged pieces, each fragment haunted by millers demanding more flour, less mouse dung, promises unkeepable as still warm bread in monsoon season. Dawn creeps, gray fingers snuffing stars. Your last thought before feet meet unforgiving ground. Copper's cold kiss lingers, demanding to be spent, then replenished, then spent again. The circle continues, hungry as ever. Morning arrives, dust-colored, and already sweating through your tunic. The miller's stall squats by the canal's third bend, where reeds grow tallest to hide whispering deals. His daughter leans against grinding stones, sleek as a marsh viper. Her smirk belongs in palace frescoes, chancellor of smug satisfaction, carved in cuneiform below. Your empty barley sack flaps like a starving gull's beak. 1/4 full yesterday, now the ritual begins. Shells again, Nisaba's tits. She inspects your river treasures, pearl-pink spirals gleaming on her palm. Second rule of survival stalls near flowing water, accept non-coin bribes. A donkey brays 3 stalls down external laugh track for this humiliation. 3 cone-shaped shells clink together, traded from that feverish sailor last flood season. He swore they came from beyond Dilmun, where turtles sing sunset hymns. You suspect Nippur's trash heaps. These by her finger circles leftward toward the millet sacks, mythical beasts guarded by dust mice. Historians debate whether early mills added chalk to whiten cheap flour. Clay tablets show bakers accusing millers of pale deception. Your teeth know the truth, they've gritted through worse. Her thumb flicks a shell, testing its bounce on sandstone. Third bounce escapes into dung-smeared cobbles, lost to underworld accounting. Well, her braids shine with sesame oil, each strand worth more than your entire haul. You slide 2 clay tokens across the counter, prepayment from the potter's midnight desperation. His son's wedding feast needs 60 loaves. Yesterday, she squints at the tokens, 1 sack. Half chaff, 2 sacks clean grind. Your voice cracks, morning thirst, sanding your words into splinters. A funerary laugh escapes her nostrils, that scholarly theory about millers being failed palace scribes. You believe it. Only ex-bureaucrats relish refusal this much. Her palm closes over the tokens. Final offer, 1 full sack, actual grain, not termite husk, per token. You stare at grinding stones, river-worn granite older than Ur's ziggurat. Sumerian kitchens, sometimes buried ancestor figurines under ovens. Little clay grandparents guarding against price gouging. Wish you'd dug that fox-sized hole years ago. Distant water sellers shout their jugs, sweating promise. Your throat burns, but bargaining, while thirsty, shows weakness. See Exhibit A, the fisherman who traded pearls for lemon juice yesterday. She drums fingers on the counter, the rhythm of creditors counting overdue dates. Your eyes lock on her belt purse, bulging with better bribes. River shells may pay for barley, but who pays the miller's daughter? A compromise forms bitter as unripe almonds. One sack clean, one sack sweepings. You nod toward the chaff drift below mill wheels. Plus your father's loaned sieve for 2 weeks. Her eyebrow lifts, Culmisterian peak scaling new heights of disdain. Sieved cost you 3 copper pieces tomorrow. Rat King's toenails, she knows you're counting song by heart. 5 sparrows land in the chaff pile, feasting like kings at your expense. Agreed. You hate how fast your hand grabs the air between you, binding the deal before courage flees. She whistles. A drover hauls the inferior sack onto your shoulder. Mold spores explode upward, invading your nostrils like occupation forces. Father died in this when the wheel snapped. The drover whispers, jerking his chin toward the grindstone. Historians still argue whether mill accidents were common or just thrilling tales to scare apprentice bakers. Your newly gained sack wheezes, discreetly hemorrhaging grain through a poorly tied seam. The daughter throws in a twist one shell. She holds up your smallest for advice. Your silence costs half a barley seed. She leans close. Ninchuber's priests dumped spoiled grain downstream yesterday, past the reed cutter's bend. Her smile suggests rotting offerings beat empty hands tonight. 2 days ago, that tip would have excited. Today, you remember the cobra nest beneath those willows. The sandal maker's apprentice limps past, foot wrapped in bloody linen. Snake bit or millstone mishap. Either way, advertisement. You shoulder the sack, impending doom heavy as granite. The miller's daughter winks, scarlet henna flashing on her eyelid like a battle standard. Next time, she shakes your shells like temple donation bells. Bring pearls. Sunlight glares off the canal, slicing your retreat into humiliated fragments. Lucky, loaf-shaped gods, they never visit this end of the market. Your shadows grow shorter with each step, heat rising in visible waves. The sack leaks, each spill a copper piece, rolling into gutter mud. Even bargaining fails today. The ledger remains unbalanced. The oven awaits, hungry as ever. Night falls, sweeping its soot-dyed skirt over the city dust. Your coins clink into their hidey hole, their metallic coughs echoing hollow promises. Crickets launch into merciless inventory, each chirp deducting a fraction from your imaginary ledger. You sprawl on the roof, mud bricks still radiating the day's grudges. Below, the oven snores, its embers cooling into starlight imitations. 117 copper pieces, minus the miller's take, an irrelevant number, since the Bakers' Guild requires 500 for membership. Even Babylon's street dogs know no guild, no legal oven, just don't bark about it. A moth dive bombs your ear, probing for laughter crumbs. The moon slides behind reed smoke, playing celestial creditor. Historians confirm Sumerian farmers tracked debts using clay tokens shaped like stolen sleep, each piece a weary sigh baked hard. Wind carries, river stink, and donkey complaints, the perfume of fiscal desperation. Your fingers trace constellations, Ursa Major doing a poor impression of a barley stalk. That fringe theory about priestesses brewing beer from fermented cricket paste smells plausible tonight, considering the neighborhood choir. Shouting erupts 2 roofs over, a husband discovering his wife hid onion hoards. Silver discs clatter as bribes, domestic commerce in action. A shooting star streaks, burning accounts payable into cosmic dust. You sip lukewarm beer, bitter as auditor scrolls. Houseflies dance on the rim, their waltz mocking your liquidity ratios. Sudden realization you're richer in starvation than currency. Half-eaten regrets line your gut. The widow's iris blooms dried into garnish. Owl hoots pierce the cricket ledger, feathered debt collectors demanding vigils. You count stars again, faltering at 73. Historians still debate whether the Anunnaki tracked earthly bread shortages or just munched ambrosia between legal threats. A drunken potter serenades the marketplace, off-key odes to his kiln. Fiscal embarrassment unites all tiers of society. Your laugh tastes of mildew, the secret ingredient in Sumerian resilience. Palace torches flicker, their distant glow gilding some scribe's insomnia. You bet his stylus breaks exactly when yours does, cosmic symmetry for the overworked. Morning crouches, 2 copper wire hours before dawn's markup. Your joints creak downward, collapsing onto reed mats, thin as a tax collector's smile. Sweat-stiff linen rasps against your shoulder blades, woven regrets rubbing you raw. You smell like burnt offerings and donkey, an aroma no lotus blossom can mask. Gnats stage their final raid, buzzing kamikaze runs past your ear canals. One kamikaze zooms straight into your left nostril. A choking snort flicks him back to the afterlife. Justice served with nasal artillery. Moonlight squeezes through mud brick seams, painting prison stripes across your ribs. Historians confirm Sumerian workers slept on these reed grids, cheaper than wool padding, but twice as stabby. Your heel brushes clay, still radiating residual oven warmth. The floor remembers today's fires, even if your creditors don't. Eyelids slam like ledger covers, shutting out the math, glaring behind them. Dreams drag you under weightless as breadcrumbs tossed on the Euphrates. You float through streets of humming flour, golden moats singing debt-free lullabies. A smiling river god offers you peeled melons, his beard braided with cinnamon sticks. Historians still debate whether commoners used reed pillows or just balled-up tunics, stiff with ambition. Darkness ripples, morphing into your oven swollen to palace proportions. Its open maw yawns, revealing dancing flames shaped like fiddling tax collectors. Their fiery limbs scratch out cuneiform receipts in mid-air hot embers for ink. Your dream self lobs clay tablets at them, missiles of poetic protest. Each shattering slab births a giggling loaf of bread, its crust splitting into grins. A lion-headed bureaucrat materializes, his lapis-lazuli quill ticking off violations. Unsanctioned cumin sprinkle. 10 coppers. Emotional attachment to dough. 20 coppers. Fringe theorists claim some Sumerians buried dream journals with their dead clay tablets, confessing midnight visions of cheese-filled bread mountains. You kick him in the cuneiform, sending styli flying like javelins. Weight presses your chest, invisible sands burying you grain by grain. You gasp awake for 3 heartbeats, disoriented as a salted slug. Reality reeks of stale barley and armpit despair. The mats reeds tattoo new grievances into your hip bones, ancient acupuncture gone rogue. Your blanket itches, woven from sheep raised on sarcasm and thistles. Distant dogs howl verses from the Epic of Gilgamesh, their off-key dirge scraping your last nerve. You curl sideways, knees bumping the cooling oven wall. Clay kisses your kneecap, a grudging truce after today's battles. Warmth bleeds through your tunic, the last captive heat fleeing tomorrow's shift. Sleep pounces again, swift as a starving leopard. This time, you sink into dough-soft blackness. No gods, no debts, just velvet nothingness hugging your calluses. Your fingers twitch, kneading phantom loaves in the abyss. Even asleep, you're still working, because the Anunnaki hate unionized bakers. Stars scatter behind your eyelids, each one a copper coin, winking farewell. Breath slows, snagging on dreams of cool river reeds, not yet woven into torment. Eternity, or 3 minutes, passes before the roosters start their shift. Your final thought dissolves, barely more than mist on the Euphrates at dawn. If broken mats build character, mine's a damn epic. Darkness swallows the punchline whole. Dream wheat parts before your steps, stalks towering higher than temple ziggurats. Each golden head bows, brushing your shoulders with feather-light reverence. 1,000 loaves sprout wings, circling overhead like patient vultures made of crust. No sun scorches here, just perpetual harvest light seeping from honeycomb clouds. Barley grains tumble down like oversized hail, twice the size of mortal crops. You catch one, its surface carvings spell your name in proto-cuneiform. Getty Museum tablets confirm kings bragged about mythical wheat yields. Uppity propaganda your dream takes, literally. Wind hisses through the fields, a chorus of ghostly sickles slicing nothingness. The soil smells fresh turned, devoid of donkey sweat or river mildew. 5 oxen plod past their harnesses, dripping lapis-lazuli beads instead of leather straps. Fringe archivists whisper of Babylonian dream farms, where priests cultivated visions, not crops, watering them with poppy milk. You pluck a stalk. The stem bleeds warm beer that evaporates before hitting ground. Phantom children dart between rows, their laughter chiming like silver coins in a beggar's cup. When you blink, they dissolve into locusts, that immediately repent, forming apology notes midair before crumbling to dust. A floating baker's peel drifts by ferrying unburnt offerings to absent gods. Each flatbread bears the face of someone you owe money, their edible eyes judging your flour sack pajamas. Historians still fight over whether commoners ever tasted wheat bread or just chewed gritty barley like the rest of us mortals. Barriers between reality and fantasy fray further. You spot palm trees growing upside down, roots clawing at cloud wool, while dates dangle earthward. A river flows sideways, fish swimming vertically past your astonished gaze. Their gills flap cymbal-like, keeping rhythm for a deaf harpist plucking spiderwebs. You knead dream dough, it sighs under your palms, purring like temple cats after cream theft. The mound reshapes itself, becoming a tiny clay city with smoking oven chimneys. Citizens wave edible limbs, their torsos glazed with honeyed optimism, before collapsing into crumbs. An ibis lands on your head, its beak full of translucent scrolls detailing imaginary debts. Interest accrues in pomegranate seeds, compounded hourly by Cha's merciless arithmetic. The bird dissolves when you sneeze, scrolls scattering into mayflies that spell late payment before dying mid-flight. Heat shimmers distort the horizon, revealing banquet tables groaning under roasted songbirds and lotus flower wine. The chairs sit empty, each place setting accusing you of arriving too early or centuries late. Steam rises from a golden tureen, unfurling into your mother's voice, scolding you for tracking ash on clean floors. Moon-pale women appear grinding grain in quicksilver querns. Their pestles strike sparks that bloom into lilies, each petal whispering bakery secrets in dead dialects. You catch only one phrase: dough fears haste more than fire. A landslide of sesame seeds buries you to the waist, their oily musk summoning memories of street vendor simmet back in waking You chew your way free, the seeds morphing into teeth that chatter merchant prices for bitumen and dried figs. Suddenly, the field convulses, earth rippling like a shaken rug. Loaves take flight, soaring toward a donut-shaped sun where tax collectors roast on skewers. Someone hands you a chisel, commands you to carve your dreams into clay before dawn steals them. First light bleaches the stars, one by one like coins dropped in a blind baker's cup. Goosebumps march across your arms. Night stole every scrap of the oven's lingering warmth. Your linen tunic clings damp last evening's sweat, now frigid as a magistrate's frown. You fumble for a threadbare wool cloak, its frayed edge tickling your shin like a scorpion's retreat. Dawn hasn't broken yet. It hesitates behind the eastern horizon, bleeding watercolor grays onto the mud brick walls. Somewhere downriver, a donkey brays protest against its first load of limestone blocks. The sound hangs sharp in the air, a serrated knife slicing through what little sleep clings to your eyelids. Your spine pops like green wood in a new fire, each vertebra cursing the reed mat you call a bed. Historians still bicker whether common bakers owned blankets or just huddled against lukewarm ovens like human lizards. You step barefoot onto the courtyard's packed earth, grit embedding itself between toes with practiced cruelty. Moonlight clings to the well's rim, casting silver on the water bucket's frayed rope. Your fingers ignore the cold knots and calluses formed by 89,000 prior draws. A clay tablet from mentions pre-dawn bakers using stale bread chunks as alarm clocks thrown at sleeping assistants. You wish for such luxury. Your own eyelids feel stitched open with palm fibers. The oven squats before you, its dome darker than the retreating night. Ash whispers under your palm as you brush the cooking surface, a futile search for leftover warmth. Only yesterday's arrogance remains, the smug certainty that this fire would outlast darkness. A shiver climbs your ribs, a liquor-swigging centipede with icy legs. Your breath fogs, mocking the absent hearth smoke. You scrape last night's charred offering from the oven floor, black crumbs sticking under your nails like buried secrets. Babylonians believed burnt bread appeased restless spirits, your grandmother swore, by tossing scraps into corners for gutter ghosts. The crumbs taste of bitterness and regret breakfast of the perpetually indebted. Fingers clumsy as thawing meat, you gather tamarisk twigs from their hidden alcove. Dry leaves prickle your wrist, nature's sarcastic applause for repeating this folly. The first spark from your flint dies midair, a stillborn firefly. The second catches, devouring a leaf before shrinking into sullen redness. You blow gently, cheeks puffing like a bullfrog's mating song. Flames bloom sudden and bright, branding shadows onto your face. Heat rushes up, a returned lover's reckless embrace. You sacrifice 3 precious twigs to Bel-Marduk, or whichever gods listening this merciless morning. A clay ledger from Nippur lists 83 ways a baker could offend deities, most involving undercooked pastries or excessive eye-rolling during prayers. First light licks the courtyard wall, exposing chipped bricks where last winter's storms gnawed. Your water jug sweats condensation, beads rolling down its curves like slave market tears. When you sip, the liquid holds the metallic tang of the canal's night journey. You'll trade silver or last week's bread for a single swallow from a mountain spring. Footsteps slap the alley, the miller's son lugging barley flour in a leaky sack. His price has doubled since the palace requisitioned his father's donkeys. You barter using oyster shells collected yesterday, each iridescent curve worth 10 minutes of haggling. He takes half spilling precious flour as he retreats toward richer clients. Dust motes swirl in the newborn sunbeams, golden as the bread you'll never afford to eat. Your kneading trough waits, its hollow etched by generations of desperate fists. You pour flour with ceremonial slowness, watching it cascade like a miniature sandstorm. Water follows, too much at first, transforming the mixture into sullen sludge. Memories of yesterday's dream wheat taunt you each phantom grain mocking this coarse reality. You sprinkle precious sourdough starter, a lineage older than Hammurabi's laws. The mixture bubbles sluggishly, yeast resisting dawn's bleakness. Your knuckles sink into the dough, punching down ancestral frustrations. Bakers Guild records from Larsa-mention apprenticeships lasting 7 years, though you trained yourself through hunger and burned fingertips. No master ever praised your crimping technique. Only creditors noted your rising debts. Shouts erupt 2 streets over a fishmonger accusing a date seller of sabotage. Their curses weave through the rising heat, poetry for the sleep-deprived. You shape barley rounds, thumbs pressing dimples into their soft bellies. Each dent holds a silent wish for less scorpions in the flour, for fewer soldiers at the market, for sleep without dreams of flying bread. Sunlight finally crests the wall, striking your forehead like a cooper's mallet. Your shadow stretches long and thin, twisting into a hunger-shaped question mark against clay bricks. The oven shudders, ready to devour your offering and spit back survival. You slide the first loaf into the flames, its fate written in crackles and rising steam. Your fingers scrape charred crumbs from the oven floor, black whispers clinging under torn nails. Dawn's first light bleeds through the courtyard, painting ash, drifts the color of stolen daylight. Each scraping motion echoes, a hushed argument between today's labor and yesterday's failure. Burnt offerings crust the brick like fossilized regrets. This oven devours perfection and excretes lessons. You sweep debris into a cracked clay bowl, ritual more than necessity. Sumerians buried bread scraps beneath doorways as spirit traps, a mainstream practice confirmed by temple inventories. Your grandmother swore burnt crusts cured warts if applied during a crescent moon while hopping backwards. The ashes sting your eyes, revenge of last night's hubris. Kneading begins before your knuckles unclench, barley flour dusting the trough like tired snow. Water trickles from the jug, a reluctant surrender to gravity's persistence. Historians still argue whether pre-dawn bakers added sand to stretch dough or just ground their teeth into flour. Your elbows remember the motion, 80,000 spins since adolescence. Sourdough starter bubbles, a sleepy yawn from its clay crock. You feed it another pinch of flour. This culture's older than Egypt's first pyramid. Some crazed scholar in Uruk claimed yeast spores were unborn gods, his scrolls burned as oven kindling 3 summers back, your finger denting the starter life squelching between calluses. Wind whistles through the alley, carrying donkey stink and gossip from the docks. A caravan guard boasts of Syrian ovens, claims they bake bread with honey and crushed lapis. You snort your loaves where scorch marks like battle scars. Flame requires no cosmetics, only obedience. Memories of yesterday's bread, golden rounds devoured by strangers, haunt your fingertips, their coins already traded for flour, riddled with grit. You shape dough, palms cupping possibility. Each mound mirrors the one before, an unbroken chain stretching backward to Eden's first hearth. Your thumbnail carves a cross into the first loaf, the baker's mark, declaring ownership. Small rebellion against a life consumed by fire. Drunk scribes in taverns sing epics of kings. Your saga fits in a scorch pattern on barley crust. The oven yawns, a gaping mouth hungry for naivete. You slide the first loaf onto its scorched tongue flames, nipping your wrist like an impatient creditor. Heat sears your eyebrows, familiar as your mother's scolding. Bakers in Nineveh wore wet reed masks against the blaze, too bad you're allergic. Fire crackles, a lullaby older than written words. Embers mimic the stars fading overhead, dying flames winking like conspirators. You count breaths between blisters rising on dough, perfect timing, engraved in muscle memory. Cool shadows cling to the courtyard wall, brief sanctuary from the oven's rage. You press your spine against mud bricks, their chill leaching through sweat-soaked linen. A cat slinks past, eyeing your kneading trough with thief's calculation. When the first loaf emerges, it wears a blackened cheek kissed by flame too eagerly. Charred crust crumbles under your thumb, time's fingerprints on all fragile things. Underneath lies softness, golden as harvest moons cheating drought. Ash drifts onto your sandal, gray snow in a land without winters. Another loaf sacrifices itself to the fire, fueling the cycle. Your grandmother's ghost murmurs, ask the oven for mercy. But the oven only answers, feed me again. Noon approaches its heat, rivaling the hearth's fury. Coins will soon jingle, hands grasping for bread's temporary comfort. You scrape the bowl, dough clung to edges like children to a dying parent. Your fingers sculpt one last loaf, small and lopsided, the baker's secret feast. Flames greet it with indifference, swallowing another dream of fullness. Blackened crumbs stick to your heel as you turn, walking the same path back to hunger's cradle. The oven sighs satisfaction, charcoal breath curling toward indifferent skies. You knead again, the circle hungry as ever. Your hands slow, the dough softening into stillness beneath your palms. Embers dim, a tired heartbeat beneath layers of gray ash. The oven's breath cools, coiling up to meet the pale morning sky. You sit, spine resting against mud bricks, still holding night's chill. A single sparrow lands near the kneading trough, head tilting at scattered flour. Its chirp cracks the silence, small as a baked fig seed. You scatter burnt crumbs, gift and apology woven together. Flames shrink into slumber, their light now gentle as a grandmother's palm. Shadows stretch across the courtyard, long and liquid, blurring the lines between work and rest. Even hunger softens here, knowing the oven must sleep too. Your thumbnail brushes the last loaf, cooling beside the hearth. No coins demanded for this one, its imperfections meant for your lips alone. Charred crust parts, revealing warmth that lingers like a whispered secret. Wind tugs at your hem, now carrying time and river mist instead of donkey stink. Distant voices blur, merging into the hum of waking streets. The cat returns curling near your feet in truce. Eyelids grow heavy, each blink slower than the last. Fire's crackle fades, replaced by the river's drowsy song downstream. Kneading trough, clay jug, even the scorned ashes, all dissolve into stillness. You breathe deep and full, letting heat-stiffened muscles unravel. Dawn completes its climb, gilding the courtyard in forgiving light. Tomorrow's work waits beyond the horizon, patient as rising dough. The oven dreams, and you dream with it, anchored by the gentle rhythm of embers turning to dust. Warmth envelopes you, not from flames now, but from earth, sky, and the quiet certainty of worlds turning. Sleep comes smooth as unbaked dough, wrapping you in flour-dusted shadows. The last thought slips away, a wisp of smoke dissolving into blue. All is still. All is enough.